Chapter 984. It was early in the morning, and the entire Gale City was still quiet. Outside the Radiance clan, there was a young disciple standing beside each of the two stone lions. Both of them had perfected innate mastery. Their hands were on the hilts of their swords, and their eyes were shining so brightly that no one dared to look at them directly. Both of them stood on both sides of the door with an eerie aura like two door gods. The bright sunlight shone on them, but it could not dispel the eerie chill on their bodies. Both of their faces were tense, but their hearts were relaxed. The air was exceptionally fresh, and the sound of burning firewood made them want to run home and have a full meal. They were hungry after standing for an entire night. Even though they were hungry, they were still full of energy and were in high spirits. The two of them heard the faint sound of footsteps, and their spirits rose. They saw a short and thin middle-aged man walking over from the street. He looked ordinary, and his eyes were lifeless. The sharpness in their eyes was replaced by a smile. They sized up the approaching middle-aged man. "What can I do for you, Your Excellency? I've heard that Gale Branch's branch leader, Zhao De, is highly skilled in martial arts. I've come to meet you and learn from you." The middle-aged man gave a fist salute slowly. "You?" Both of them were stunned. "You want to challenge the branch leader?" "Yes." The middle-aged man nodded slowly. Both of them carefully sized up the middle-aged man so that they would not be fooled. There were many masters who hid their strength, and it would not end well if they were to be careless. His figure was thin, and his dark green robe was slightly big, making him look even skinnier. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow him away. No matter how they looked at him, he was not a martial arts master. He did not have any inner energy, and his spirit was weak. He was just an ordinary person. "Stop joking, Your Excellency." One of the young protectors shook his head. "Our branch leader is busy and has no time to entertain random people. You should challenge him elsewhere. The Roaring Tiger clan is not bad, and they're very powerful. You can try. I'm Zheng Yanwu." The middle-aged man gave a fist salute. Zheng Yanwu? Both of them were stunned. They were familiar with the name. It was Zheng Tian's father, who was said to be a hidden master of the White Tiger sect. He was over 100 years old. "Hee, Your Excellency is really good at joking." A young guard smiled and said, "Senior Zheng is a top expert who is over 100 years old. How could he look like this? Could it be that you have changed your appearance?" "I am Zheng Yanwu, the real deal." The middle-aged man said slowly, "Can I enter your branch?" After saying that, he walked forward. The two young guards hurriedly took a step forward and stood shoulder to shoulder in front of him, blocking the path in front of him. They said in a deep voice, "Stop. Don't blame us for being impolite if you continue forward." Regardless of whether he knew martial arts or not, they couldn't let him in before he revealed his identity. "Sai." Zheng Yanwu shook his head and waved his right sleeve. Bang, bang. It was as if the two young guards had been hit by a carriage at high speed. They flew out and crashed into the stone lions behind them. They grimaced in pain, and their faces were twisted. "You really are Zheng Yanwu." The two of them cried out in surprise. They landed on the ground, took something out of their bosoms, and threw it into the air. Bang! A black shadow soared into the sky and exploded into a mass of black clouds that lingered without dissipating. With light footsteps, a group of people came out of the main door and surrounded Zheng Yanwu in the blink of an eye. Zheng Yanwu squinted his eyes and glanced around. He shook his head. There are so many people in Gale Branch. He saw more than 30 people surrounding him tightly. Each of them was a master with a high cultivation level, and their strength was far beyond what he knew. "Who are you?" Huya shouted. "Zheng Yanwu. Are you really Senior Zheng Yanwu?" Huya was in disbelief. They had never seen Zheng Yanwu before, but they felt that a person over 100 years old would at least have white hair and a youthful complexion. How could he look like a middle-aged man? Moreover, his appearance did not look similar to Zheng Tianhe. More importantly, he did not have the appearance of a grandmaster. He looked like an ordinary person. It was as if a passerby had said that he was a hidden master for hundreds of years. It was ridiculous. Zheng Yanwu said lightly, "Every debt has its debtor. I'm looking for your branch leader, Zhao De." "Senior Zheng, you came at a bad time." Huya fist saluted. "Branch leader just left last night. I heard that he's cultivating a secret skill to deal with Senior Zheng and will only return tonight. If Senior Zheng wants to meet the branch leader, please wait. Don't tell me he ran away. Zheng Yinwu frowned at him. He shook his head. Senior Zheng, don't worry. Branch leader dares to take responsibility for his actions. He won't run away. Senior Zheng, why don't you wait for a day? You'll see branch leader tonight. Even if branch leader doesn't show up, we'll still be here. What's the point of killing you? Zheng Yinwu said lightly. In his eyes, they were not worth mentioning and were not worth killing. Moreover, he was also afraid of Great Light Peak. No matter how powerful he was, he had no chance of winning against Great Light Peak's revenge. He only wanted to kill Zhao Dai to avenge his son's death. His personal grudge had nothing to do with the conflict between the sections. Great Light Peak had nothing to say. Then I'll send you off, Senior Zheng. Huya fist saluted. Zheng Yinwu said lightly, I'll look for him tonight. Tell Zhao Dai to wash his neck and don't run away. Yes, Huya said. Zheng Yinwu sneered and turned around. The next moment, he appeared at the corner of the street and disappeared in an instant. Everyone looked at his incredibly fast body movement technique with grave expressions and different thoughts running through their minds. He was in a small residence not far from the Roaring Tiger clan. He was quietly practicing the 36 energy-nurturing forms. After practicing it a few times, he sat down to regulate his breathing. Then, he stood up to practice the 36 energy-nurturing forms again and again. The situation in Gale Branch was clearly reflected in his mind, but he ignored it and focused on practicing his 36 energy-nurturing forms. Zheng Yinwu left Gale Branch and returned to the Roaring Tiger clan. The Roaring Tiger clan had lost its backbone. The two masters who had stayed behind had pacified the crowd and managed to keep the clan together. However, their spirits had been scattered. Their bones and tendons had been removed by Chu Li, and they were no longer the #1 clan in Gale City. Surrounded by the crowd, the two of them welcomed Zheng Yinwu into the Roaring Tiger clan and reported to Zheng Yinwu alone. Zheng Yinwu looked calm and slow. He did not seem angry at all. After listening to the two's detailed report, he did not comment. In the end, he only asked indifferently if Zheng Tianhe was killed by Zhao Dai. As for the rest, he did not ask much. He did not ask why the fight had broken out or why he had killed Zheng Tianhe. He closed his eyes and sent the two away. Then, he walked around the courtyard where Zheng Tianhe used to live. His expression became gloomier. Zheng Tianhe's voice and smile, when he was young, flashed in his mind. He had a son at such an old age and was doted on like a grandson. He had received endless joy. When he thought about being separated forever, his heart ached. Therefore, regardless of the rule of not stepping into the martial arts world before 100 years old, he had to kill Zhao Dai before he could face Zheng Tianhe again. After a while, he calmed himself down and began to cultivate. He was confident that he could kill Zhao Dai, but he did not want to fail miserably. He had to do his best no matter what. Zhao Dai was a rising star in the Holy Church of Light. The Holy Church of Light cherished the disciples who entered the Great Light Peak and would not allow any of them to be hurt. Therefore, they would definitely send help. When he thought about this, his heart sank. Fortunately, the Holy Church of Light would not send a 100-year-old master, so he had a high chance of killing Zhao Dai. Even if there was someone protecting him, he must kill Zhao Dai. Whoever tried to stop him would be the enemy who killed his son. They must be killed. He sat on the bed and calmed himself down. He slowly dispersed his murderous intent and calmed himself down. He rested and built up his energy in preparation for the big battle at night. Chapter 985. At first, he was eager to learn Zheng Tianhe's White Tiger Powers level was too low. Zheng Yinwu was a 100-year-old hidden master, so his White Tiger Powers level must be very high. If he could learn it, it would be enough for him to cultivate temporarily. In the future, he would look for an opportunity to obtain all the heart techniques of White Tiger Power. If he was lucky, Zheng Yinwu's White Tiger Power could be cultivated to the highest level, which would save him a lot of effort. He did not accept the challenge immediately because he wanted to watch Zheng Yinwu cultivate White Tiger Power. Otherwise, he would not have the chance to learn it if they fought. However, When Zheng Yanwu arrived at the Roaring Tiger clan, he did not cultivate the white tiger power for a long time. Instead, he merely adjusted his breathing and recuperated so that he could deal with the big battle at night. Chu Li was very disappointed, but there was nothing he could do. After all, he could not force Zheng Yanwu to cultivate the white tiger power. He could only wait helplessly. Time passed slowly. Chu Li had been honing his single slice of a universe the entire morning. He kept compressing and honing it so that all the blade energy of the single slice of the universe in his dantian was condensed into one blade. This was very exhausting. In the past, he could release more than 20 blades when he filled his dantian with the blade energy of the single slice of the universe. Now, he had to compress all 20 blades into one, which required 10 times more energy than before. This blade would cause great damage to his meridians. Once he released it, he would not have the energy to release a second blade. With his current cultivation level, there was only one way to defeat Zheng Yanwu without restoring his Chu Li's body. There was only one chance for him to use one blade. From noon to afternoon, Zheng Yanwu sat motionlessly on the bed like a statue. Even when the people from the Roaring Tiger clan brought him food, he did not touch it and only sat on the bed to meditate. Chu Li nodded to himself at his calm temperament. It was too difficult for a martial artist not to cultivate inner energy and just sit still to calm his mind and spirit. Most martial artists liked to move and hated to stay still. When one was full of vigor, one's spirit would be overflowing and they would always want to move. Chu Li was able to do this because of his profound meditation skills. In the middle of the afternoon, when he saw that Zheng Yanwu still had no intention of cultivating white tiger power, he knew he could not count on him. He glided to a residence where Li Ruolin and Lu Zhan were chatting in the courtyard. Zheng Yanwu has arrived? Li Ruolin asked. Chu Li nodded and sat in the gazebo. Senior Sister Li, Senior Sister Lu, you should go. Li Ruolin frowned as she looked at him. Lu Zhan asked, you don't need our help? Chu Li shook his head. You won't be of much help. Instead, you'll be a burden to me. Junior brother Zhao, what nonsense are you spouting? Li Ruolin said snappily. You're not confident that you can defeat Zheng Yanwu either. Are you trying to send us away? Chu Li said. He has 100 years' worth of inner power. Think about it. Even a mediocre cultivator with 100 years' worth of inner power would be astounding. Moreover, Zheng Yanwu is a genius. You're just courting death by being in front of him. Even if we can't defeat him, we still have a try. It's good to distract him a little, Li Ruolin said. Junior brother Zhao, it'll make it easier for you to use your light blade. The only way to kill Zheng Yanwu was to use the light blade. Chu Li shook his head. The martial arts of the White Tiger sect aren't afraid of being besieged. It doesn't matter if you're here or not. All right, Li Ruolin nodded slowly. Are you confident that we won't help you? Yes. Chu Li nodded. Li Ruolin pursed her red lips. Lu Zhan asked, what method are you going to use? It's a sneak attack, Chu Li said. One-hit kill. Lu Zhan shook her head and smiled. Li Ruolin said snappily, don't you know that grandmasters aren't afraid of sneak attacks? They can sense danger and still sneak an attack. Chu Li said, I'll give a try. He frowned at the two women and said helplessly, you're no match for him. You're courting death if you fight him. He could see the thoughts in the two women's minds. They had no intention of leaving and were determined to help him. If he did not agree, they would fight Zheng Yanwu first to wear him down so that he would have less energy to make a move. So be it, Li Ruolin said calmly. We owe you our lives anyway. It's a good time to return the favor. Chu Li looked at her and then at Lu Zhan. Lu Zhan said, Junior brother Zhao, you don't have to persuade us anymore. We won't leave. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. You two are so stupid. You're courting death. He must be very fast. You won't be able to keep up with him. You'll be hit by his palm before you can even react. Isn't this courting death? You're exaggerating, Li Ruolin said. Let's use our secret skills. Junior brother Zhao, instead of thinking about how to chase us away, why don't you think about how to cooperate and fight or kill Zheng Yanwu? Lu Zhan frowned and looked at Chu Li. She looked obedient, but she was hot-tempered. She was clearly impatient. Chuli said helplessly. All right, you guys attack first. I'll hide to the side and avoid him. Otherwise, he'll kill the three of us with one white tiger killing skill. I can distract him if I'm not in front of him. That's a good idea. Lu Zhen nodded. We'll take the lead. You watch the situation and leave if it doesn't look good. He's going to kill you anyway, not us. Chuli shook his head. Don't think that way. He'll kill you. He knew what Zheng Yinwu was thinking. He would kill anyone who stood in his way. He had gone crazy to avenge his son. He sighed. It's decided then. You guys attack. I'll hide in the dark and look for an opportunity to kill him. Okay. The two women agreed. Under the setting sun, the Radiance clan seemed to be covered in a layer of bloody light. Chu Li and the two women arrived at the Radiance clan and gathered all the Radiance clan disciples. Huya and more than 30 martial arts masters appeared in front of the main hall. They looked at Chu Li, Li Ruolin, and Lu Zhen who were standing on the steps. Chu Li glanced at the crowd and said, I've gathered everyone here today to introduce my two senior sisters, Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen. He pointed at the two women. Zheng Yinwu is here. He'll come looking for me soon. As disciples of Gale Branch, are you going to look for trouble with me, the branch leader? Everyone looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, the next time Zheng Yinwu comes, we'll attack him together and get rid of him. No matter how powerful a martial arts master is, he's not allowed to act so arrogantly in Gale Branch. Yes. Huya and the others responded listlessly. Chu Li said, don't be afraid of Zheng Yinwu. Don't worry and fight. Even if you're killed by him, I can save you. He took out 2 jade bottles and tossed them to Huya. These are light pills. Even if you die, you can be saved as long as you don't die for more than 2 hours. Everyone immediately became spirited and looked at Huya. Huya opened one of the jade bottles and poured out a snow-white pill. Under the setting sun, it seemed to be dyed red by the setting sun. It was crystal clear and warm. Chu Li said, Huya, you know your stuff, right? It's the light pill. Huya nodded. He looked at Chu Li in shock. Branch leader, are you really giving it to us? Of course, Chu Li said proudly. As a branch leader, I don't have much, but I have spirit pills. As long as everyone works hard, I guarantee that I won't mistreat you. If you manage to kill Zheng Yinwu this time, I'll give each of you 2 light pills. Thank you, branch leader. Everyone responded. The light pill was a famous spirit pill in the martial arts world. One pill could save one's life. They did not expect the branch leader to be so generous. Chu Li said, anyone who deserts will be killed without mercy. Yes, everyone answered loudly. Xiao De. A shout came from outside. Zheng Yinwu was already outside. Chapter 986. Huya hurriedly said, everyone's spirit pills. Chu Li said, everyone, swallow this so that you won't need to use it later. Don't be reluctant. Give them 2 more later. Huya quickly poured out the light pills from the jade bottle and stuffed one into each person's mouth. He did not let them take it and only asked them to open their mouths. Everyone could only open their mouths. At first, some of them pretended to swallow it but hid it in their teeth. If they could use it later, they would swallow it immediately. If they did not, they would spit it out. After all, it was for themselves and they would not find it dirty. Unfortunately, their wishful thinking did not come to fruition. As soon as the light pill entered their mouths and came into contact with their saliva, it immediately turned into a clear air and entered their organs. Their organs were surrounded by this clear air, and they felt indescribably comfortable. They were instantly energized, and their eyes lit up. They could not wait to risk their lives. With this, they were not afraid of death. After all, they had spirit pills to protect their lives. Moreover, if they performed well, the branch leader would reward them handsomely. Chu Li smiled at the 2 women as he watched the crowd walk out valiantly. Humans die for wealth and birds die for food. With a generous reward, brave men would surely follow. This was human nature. Even grandmasters were no exception. Zheng Yinwu stood in the open space outside Gale Branch and looked coldly at the people who came out. Where's Xiao De? The branch leader isn't here. Huya fist saluted. Senior Zheng, the branch leader is busy. Why don't you wait a little longer? He's inside. Zheng Yinwu scoffed. The branch leader really isn't here. However, If he wants to fight the branch leader, he'll have to go through us first. Senior Zheng, please excuse me. Huya fist saluted. He sighed to himself. The branch leader was indeed the branch leader. His methods were impressive. With such a generous reward, he could not hesitate anymore. Everyone had been captured by the light pill and had completely surrendered to Zhao Dai. He could only go with the flow. It was impossible for him to return to the Roaring Tiger clan. Among all the masters in the Roaring Tiger clan, he was the only one who had seen a spirit pill like the light pill. The others had no chance of obtaining such a spirit pill. Now that everyone had taken one pill, there would be 2 more later. It was equivalent to having 2 more lives, which Grandmaster could refuse. Grandmasters were even more afraid of death. For the sake of the light pill, everyone had to protect Zhao Dai. Moreover, they were not afraid of death. Not bad, he passed us. The crowd shouted in unison. They surrounded Zheng Yanwu. Zheng Yanwu glanced at them coldly and said disdainfully, "With just you guys? We have enough." Huya shouted, "Everyone, don't be polite. Let's attack together. Go." The crowd shouted. Immediately, a group of people attacked at the same time. Most of them were originally experts of the Roaring Tiger clan, and they had great teamwork. They exchanged blows and formed an airtight attack. Zheng Yanwu sneered and suddenly clasped his hands together. A vivid and lifelike tiger condensed. It was as solid as a real tiger, but it was only the size of a fist. It was as if the tiger had shrunk several times. Roar! The small tiger let out a deafening roar and then squeezed into the crowd. Ah! Screams rang out one after another. No one could escape from the tiger's jaws, and they were all sent flying. In the blink of an eye, more than 20 people were sent flying out of the encirclement. Zheng Yanwu sneered and clasped his hands together. Another ferocious tiger shadow leaped into the crowd like a tiger in a flock of sheep. The experts of Gale Branch could not withstand a single blow from him. More than 10 of them were sent flying. In the blink of an eye, there was no one left standing beside him. Even Huya, who was the strongest in martial arts, was sent flying. He had held back a portion of his strength to avoid being killed, but he was also shocked by Zheng Yanwu's strength. Even if he gave it his all, he would still be sent flying when he faced the tiger's shadow head-on. In fact, he was even more severely injured. He was injured by the attack, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. Zheng Yanwu, how dare you? Li Rulin appeared and said coldly, "This is Gale Branch, not Roaring Tiger Clan. You're done for." Although the Holy Church of Light wanted to pursue the matter when the Radiance clan was destroyed, they could not do so in the end. However, the Gale Branch was different. It was a true subordinate of the Holy Church of Light, and attacking Gale Branch was equivalent to attacking the Holy Church of Light. So what if it's Gale Branch? Zheng Yanwu sneered. I don't care if it's the Radiance clan or the Gale Branch. I only want to kill Zhao Dai. If you want to kill Junior Brother Zhao, you'll have to kill me first. Li Rulin scoffed. Lu Zhen could not be bothered to talk nonsense with him. She immediately stepped forward and threw a punch. It was the divine light fist. She was delicate, and her figure was thin. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow her away, but her punch was powerful. Zheng Yanwu put his hands together and condensed another tiger shadow that shot toward Lu Zhen. The tiger shadow met Lu Zhen's punch and shot toward her chest. It was so fast that Lu Zhen could not react in time. She could only watch helplessly as she was sent flying. Bang! Lu Zhen was sent flying. Her body was in midair, and her strong reluctance forced her to throw another punch. Then, she spat out a mouthful of blood and crashed into the stone line. She fell to the ground and became listless like a withered flower. Li Rulin's expression changed. Senior Sister Lu Zhen fell under the stone lion and shouted, "Be careful. Use your secret skill." Li Rulin did not hesitate to activate the Divine Light secret skill. She shouted and threw a punch at Zheng Yanwu. Zheng Yanwu shook his head and sighed. "You're courting death. I'll fulfill your wish." Zheng Yanwu sneered and put his hands together. Another tiger shadow shot toward Li Rulin. Li Rulin dodged the tiger shadow, but it was suddenly split into 2. This time, it was too late for Li Rulin to dodge. She could only watch helplessly as she was sent flying. She helplessly looked in the direction of the gate. She did not expect herself to be so useless. Junior brother was right. They could not withstand a single blow from Zheng Yanwu. They were courting death. However, if she and senior sister Lu were at such a cultivation level, Zhao Dai would be even worse. She was slightly worried when she thought about this. If Zheng Yanwu barged in, Zhao Dai's life would be in danger. Her only hope was to be smart and run away before Zheng Yanwu caught him. Bang! Li Ruolin's graceful body crashed into the stone lion and slid to Lu Zhen's side. It seems like we're a burden. Lu Zhen lowered her head and sighed. The two of them were like children facing adults in front of Zheng Yanwu. They could not fight back at all, which made her feel extremely hopeless and depressed. Li Ruolin said, "This is the best we can do. It's all up to junior brother Zhao now." Zhao Dai. Zheng Yanwu suddenly extended his hand. Lu Zhen, who was sitting on the stone lion, suddenly flew up and shot toward Zheng Yanwu. Zheng Yanwu flipped his hand and hit Lu Zhen's chest. Lu Zhen flew backward again and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. She fell after crashing into the stone lion and became even more dispirited. Her injuries had already healed with difficulty. Now that she was injured again and her vitality was greatly damaged, it was extremely bad. Zheng Yanwu shouted, "Zhao Dai, if you don't come out, I'll kill these two women." The surroundings were silent. Chuli did not make a move. Huya and the others had consumed the light pill in advance. Even though they were heavily injured, they were not as severely injured. They were still very energetic. Huya frowned as he looked at the gate. Did branch leader Zhao Dai really escape? "I'll count to 3. If he doesn't come out, I'll kill her," Zheng Yanwu shouted. Chuli still did not make a move. He was standing outside the basilica that was separated by a wall and observing Zheng Yanwu's movements. He was using the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror at the same time to look for Zheng Yanwu's flaws that could allow him to kill Zheng Yanwu in one hit. Before he was confident that he could kill Zheng Yanwu in one hit, he could only hold back. Otherwise, he would be courting death if he went out. He only had one chance and one slash. If he could not kill Zheng Yanwu, he could only run for his life. 1, 2. Chapter 987. Let her go. Huya roared and charged at Zheng Yanwu with all his remaining strength. The other martial arts master also charged at him with all his might. They would never allow these two beauties to die in front of them. Otherwise, they would not be fit to be called men. "Umph." Zheng Yanwu sneered and pushed his palms forward. His palm energy crashed into the two people from afar. Bam bam. The two people were sent flying hundreds of feet away as if they were being pulled by strings. Their fate did not scare the crowd away. Instead, it aroused their courage and they charged at Zheng Yanwu with their wounded bodies. They were not afraid of death and charged forward bravely. The two women looked at the crowd in surprise. They did not expect this motley crew of Roaring Tiger Clan's martial arts masters to be so brave. The double stimulation of the light pill reward and the beautiful women made their blood boil. They were fearless and showed their courage. All men's actions were for the sake of women. With such beautiful women in front of them, they became hot-blooded young men. Zheng Yanwu's palms were not enough, so he used the same trick again. He put his hands together and formed a tiger shadow that pounced at the crowd like a miniature real tiger. Bam, 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 bam. The crowd was scattered everywhere. Some went to the east, some to the west, some to the south, and some to the north. They scattered in all directions and formed a semicircle. Zheng Yanwu sneered and glanced at the crowd. Then he extended his palms toward the two women again. Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen pursed their red lips and stared at him stubbornly. Their bodies were limp and weak. They wanted to move, but were powerless. They could only watch as his palms fell. "Ah, but you charged at him again. You're courting death." Zheng Yanwu's face darkened. He turned around and attacked with his palm energy like a huge wave. Huya flew into the air and was hit by the huge wave energy. He was sent flying again. TSS. A cold glint flashed, and the sound of silk ripping made one's body go numb. Ugh. Zheng Yinwu's expression changed, and he looked down at his chest. He knew that Zhao Dai's light blade was a huge threat. It was much more powerful than his cultivation level, and could even threaten him. That was why he had put on his treasured armor in advance, so that he would not be afraid of the light blade. However, he did not expect the treasured armor to be useless and the blade to pierce through it. The power of Chu Li's condensed blade was peerless. It broke through the treasured armor without any obstruction and pierced through the body. Zheng Yinwu turned around and left, disappearing in a flash like a shadow. Chu Li stood quietly at the main entrance, coldly looking in the direction where Zheng Yinwu disappeared. Everyone was shocked and then cheered. They all saw the saber flash by, but it pierced through Zheng Yinwu. Chu Li slowly walked towards the two women and smiled. "Senior sisters, you almost lost your life, didn't you?" Li Ruolin said angrily. "Hurry up and help us in." Chu Li helped the two women up with each hand and slowly walked through the main door. He ignored the people from Gale Branch and their moans and screams. After a while, Chu Li came out again and tossed 4 jade bottles to Huya, 2 for each person, 3 for those who perform well, and 4 for you. "Many thanks, branch leader." Huya received the jade bottle in a flurry. He was overjoyed. Chu Li raised his voice and shouted, "I still have more light pills. Let's see if you're capable enough to take them." "Yes," everyone answered loudly. Such a generous reward made them so excited that their injuries seemed to have lightened. Chu Li returned to the hall and came to a small courtyard. The two women lay side by side on the bed. Their faces were pale and lifeless. He sat in front of their bed and frowned at them. Damn Zheng Yinwu, what a vicious palm energy. The palm energy that the two women suffered could restrain the light pill. The palm energy dissolved the light pill's medicinal effect, causing their injuries to worsen. If this continued, they would die in less than an hour. This must be the white tiger sect's most vicious white tiger soul devouring technique. Li Ruolin lay on her back on the bed. Her chest rose and fell violently as she panted. "The light pill is useless. If you want to save us, your inner energy must be purer and deeper than his. So there's no hope." Chu Li scoffed. "You'll definitely die? So be it. We'll die sooner or later." Lu Zhen lay in Li Ruolin's arms. Her delicate and gentle face was calm. "Unfortunately, we can't enter the light realm. Zheng Yinwu deliberately prevented us from entering the light realm." "What a vicious fellow," Li Ruolin said. "You must be careful of him. He might not be careless next time." The blade earlier was breathtaking, but could not be replicated. With so many people distracting Zheng Yinwu, Zhao Dai had the chance to shoot that blade. Zheng Yinwu would not be so careless next time. Chu Li said, "I'll save you first." He took out a jade bottle and poured out 4 light pills. Then he stuffed 2 pills into each woman's mouth. After Li Ruolin ate the pills, she shook her head and said, "We're just stalling for time. These 2 light pills can only buy us an hour." "Junior brother, did you refine these light pills?" Lu Zhen asked. Chu Li nodded. "Refining light pills is a piece of cake as long as we have enough spirit herbs. Take 2 pills in an hour. We have plenty of light pills. If we can last until we return to Great Light Peak, the saint can save you." "All right," Li Ruolin nodded. They believed that the saint had a way to break the white tiger soul devouring technique. However, after a while, Chu Li's face turned gloomy. The white tiger soul devouring technique instantly devoured the medicinal effects of the 2 light pills and turned them into his own energy. The two women's injuries worsened. The light pills were useless now. In the blink of an eye, the two women's injuries worsened and worsened rapidly. Their green aura became thicker and they were about to die. They felt their vision turning black and were about to be devoured by the darkness. Their bodies turned cold. Li Ruolin tried her best to open her eyes. Her originally bright eyes had become dull. "Junior brother, if I die, cut off a strand of my hair and give it to senior brother G." Chu Li said, "Senior sister Li, why are you so worried? He's already gone." "That's true." Li Ruolin sighed. "It's good to let him forget about me." Lu Zhen forced a smile. "Junior sister, you're very affectionate." Chu Li's expression changed. He looked deeply at the two women. He watched as their vitality slowly dissipated from their graceful bodies and was gradually devoured by the darkness and coldness. In the end, he sighed and bent down to press on their breasts. You, Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen widened their eyes and stared at him in disbelief. Chu Li closed his eyes and ignored them. The two women struggled to pry his large hands away, but they felt a cool force entering their chests. The white tiger soul devouring technique's inner energy was like a wolf that saw a lamb. It pounced on this force. In a flash, the white tiger soul devouring technique's inner energy entered Chu Li's body through his palms. After a few rounds of Cloud slashing power, it assimilated the inner energy and disappeared without a trace. Li Ruolin was right. A purer inner energy was needed to overcome the white tiger soul devouring technique. Cloud slashing power was indeed useful. Chu Li continued to press his palms on their chests. Spiritual energy surged into their bodies and their spirits were lifted. Chu Li withdrew his hands and stuffed a light pill into their mouths. The pill's energy instantly turned into a cool force, and their vitality was restored. The two women opened their eyes and looked at him in confusion. Chu Li said, "The Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture is mysterious, right?" As expected of the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture, Li Ruolin nodded lightly. Lu Zhen said, "Junior brother Zhao, you saved our lives again. We're even," Chu Li said. Chapter 988. Senior sisters, rest well and recuperate. I'll go after Zheng Yinwu. Chu Li said. Don't go. Li Ruolin frowned. You're no match for him, even if he's injured. Chu Li smiled and said, the blade force of my blade is similar to the white tiger soul devouring technique. His injuries will only worsen. It won't heal so easily. His inner energy is more profound. He's able to break through your saber force. Li Ruolin said, if the white tiger soul devouring art could be broken by a pure inner energy, then so could Zhao Dai's saber force. Chu Li said, it's not that easy. He's a scourge if he's left alive. It's already a fluke that we were able to injure him this time. What about the next time? Are you going to stay here forever? Li Ruolin furrowed her curved eyebrows. It's impossible for us to stay even if we want to. We don't have enough manpower in the church, so we need to be on standby at all times. Lu Zhen chuckled. We're all busy, but we can't compare to you, junior brother Zhao. Chu Li scoffed. I'm willing to work hard, but the saint won't let me. All right. Li Ruolin interrupted his grumbling. If the saint heard him, he would be in deep trouble. All right, I'm leaving now. Chu Li waved his hand and ignored Li Ruolin's greeting as he strode away. He left the Gale branch and headed northeast. Zheng Yinwu felt his inner force gushing out of his wound at a speed faster than his blood. Although he was shocked, he did not lose his composure. He knew that he was in a life and death situation. He had to find a place to recuperate and heal his wounds as soon as possible before coming out to settle the score with Zhao Dai. As he used his light body technique, the rate at which his inner energy was drained increased. Half of his inner energy had already been drained the moment he left Gale City. At this rate, he would run out of inner energy not too far away from the city. Once he ran out of inner energy, he would not be able to heal himself, and his condition would only worsen. He pondered for a moment and realized that the most dangerous place might actually be the safest. In terms of the depth of their foundation in Gale City, the Holy Church of Light was far inferior to the White Tiger sect. He immediately returned to Gale City and entered a small alley. Then, he entered an ordinary family's house. There was an old man living in this family. His eyebrows and beard were all white, and he was senile. There was no one else in the family. He was a widower. The old man was currently lying in an old rocking chair in the courtyard, bathing in the sunset as he rocked back and forth leisurely. He was even humming a tune, leisurely and enjoying himself. Old song. Zheng Yinwu landed in his courtyard and said in a low voice. The old man quickly got up. When he saw Zheng Yinwu, he was shocked. He quickly cupped his fists and said in pleasant surprise, Young master. Zheng Yinwu covered the wound with one hand and waved his other hand. I'm injured. I need to heal myself immediately. Don't let anyone find out. Don't worry, young master. This place is very secretive. Elder Song quickly nodded and asked with concern, Are your injuries serious? I won't die for now. Zheng Yinwu snorted. Old Song asked, What should we prepare? Find a secret place. I want to go into seclusion to heal my injuries. Zheng Yinwu said, Follow me, young master. Old Song brought him to a pagoda in the backyard and activated a mechanism in the pagoda. With a rumbling sound, the pagoda's steps shrank inwards, revealing a dark hole. Zheng Yinwu followed Old Song into the secret underground chamber. Below was an empty stone room. There was food and water stored, so there was no need to go down every day. The air in the stone room was clear and fresh. The vent was located in a flower bed, so there was a faint fragrance in the air. Young master, rest assured and heal here. Do you want me to deliver a letter? Old Song asked. Zheng Yinwu shook his head. Don't do anything lest you arouse suspicion. I'll get back at you after I recover. Yes, young master. Old Song nodded. Zheng Yinwu covered his wound and sized him up. It's been so many years. You've aged a lot. Old Song smiled and said, Young master, you look younger and younger. I look young on the outside, but my heart is old. This time, I lost my son in my old age. I want to avenge my son, but I didn't expect my enemy to be so troublesome. Zheng Yinwu shook his head and sighed. Go. Yes. Old Song cupped his fists, went up the secret chamber, and entered the pagoda. With a rumbling sound, the stairs extended out again, covering the hole and returning to its original state. Outsiders could not discover the secret chamber. Old Song continued to sit on the deck chair in the front yard. As he bathed in the sunset, the past came to his mind. Back then, he followed his young master to explore the martial arts world. After surviving through a storm of swords and blades, he was crippled of his martial arts. In the end, he settled down in Gale City and became a wealthy man. He lived in peace for many years. In the blink of an eye, he had not seen his young master for 50 years. His young master was the same as before, but he had aged. He had always been content with what he had. He felt that it was good enough to be alive. After experiencing bloodshed, he was lucky to be alive. However, when he saw his young master again, he suddenly felt a little unwilling. Was he really going to spend his entire life in such a plain and quiet way and gradually become one? Was he going to walk the earth for nothing? His ambition that had been worn down by his peaceful life and his fighting spirit that had been extinguished by losing his martial arts began to recover. He started to circulate the heart technique that he had not practiced for a long time. However, his dried meridians were no longer breathing. He sighed dejectedly. Feeling vexed, he pulled open the courtyard door and walked out. Slowly, strolling, he walked slowly to the 9-star tower. As soon as he entered the 9-star tower, he heard about the battle at Gale Branch. Good fella, this Zheng Yinwu is indeed a hidden master. All the masters of Gale Branch charged at him, but he only used one move, and everyone was sent flying. Then, Zheng Yinwu injured 2 female disciples of the Holy Church of Light. They were both beauties. He forced Zhao Dai to show himself, or else he would kill the 2 beauties. The disciples of Gale Branch charged at him with no regard for their lives to save the 2 beauties. Coincidentally, there was a flash of a blade. Zhao Dai finally made his move. The light blade pierced through Zheng Yinwu. Is Zhao Dai's light blade really that powerful? My brother-in-law is a disciple of Gale Branch. He's recuperating at home. I just want to visit him with some snacks. This is what I heard from him. I saw it with my own eyes. It's inevitable that it's a little exaggerated. It's not exaggerated at all. It was just one move. Moreover, Zheng Yinwu is really powerful. There were more than 30 top-notch masters in Gale Branch, but he took care of them in one move. Elder Song sat at a table and listened to the discussions without changing his expression. He soon understood the cause and effect. He sighed to himself that the martial arts world was indeed dangerous. There would always be someone stronger than the strong. Who would have thought that the young master was so powerful, but he was defeated by such a young Zhao Dai? However, it was exciting to be in such a martial arts world. Unfortunately, his lifespan was coming to an end. If he could recover his cultivation level, he could live for another 100 years or even 200 years. The older one was, the more he was afraid of death. The more he did not want to die, the more unwilling he was to die. If he could recover his martial arts and live for another 100 years, he was willing to pay any price. He drank a few glasses of wine, but his mouth was tasteless. He slowly walked down the 9-star tower and headed back to his house with a heart full of worries. As soon as he entered the narrow alley, he saw an ugly young man in a green robe standing in the middle of the narrow alley. Elder Song was on guard, but he continued to approach the young man as if nothing had happened. The two of them approached each other and finally passed each other. Elder Song sighed in relief. He maintained his original speed and slowly walked away from the young man. "Do you want to recover your martial arts?" The ugly young man asked as if he was talking to the air. Elder Song paused and continued walking forward. The ugly young man continued, "I have one of the Holy Church of Light's miracle cure pills." Chapter 989. Wait. Old Song turned his head and said. The ugly youth paused for a moment, then continued walking. Old Song hurriedly asked, "Who are you?" "Xiaode." The ugly young man waved his hand and continued to walk forward, getting further away from Xiaode. Elder Song asked in a deep voice, "What are the conditions?" Chuli stopped and turned his head around. "White tiger power." Old Song heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, they weren't dealing with the young master. Why did he ask for the white tiger power from him? It was obvious that he knew about his relationship with the young master and that he had hidden the young master. Chuli calmly said, "Don't worry, I'm not asking you to deal with Zheng Yanwu." Old Song finally concluded that he knew the young master was hiding in his house. Chuli said, "What I want is the complete white tiger power. If you can get it, I'll exchange it with a miracle cure pill." "How do I know you're not lying to me?" Old Song said. His heart beat violently. Of course, he knew about the famous miracle cure pill. It was a unique medicine of the Holy Church of Light that could restore one's martial arts. It would have been impossible for an ordinary disciple to obtain this pill. However, Zhao De was a genius among geniuses. He was a person whom the Holy Church of Light focused on nurturing and protecting, so it was not strange for him to possess the miracle cure pill. If he could take the rejuvenation pill, he would be able to recover his martial arts that had been crippled for many years. His lifespan would be extended to over 200 years, or even 300 years. To him, who only had a few years left to live, it was an irresistible temptation. Chuli said, "I, Zhao De, will never break my promise. You can ask around about my reputation. Besides, it's just a rejuvenation pill. It's not a big deal. You will kill me to silence me." Elder Song said solemnly. Chuli cast a sidelong glance at him and said coldly, "Why should I silence you? Would the White Tiger sect spare me if I didn't secretly learn the White Tiger power? I've secretly learned the White Tiger power. What can the White Tiger sect do to me? You're the one who's afraid of leaking it, aren't you?" Old Song was speechless. He nodded slowly. Although the young master had gone down the mountain without permission and violated the rule that a master with 100 years of cultivation was not allowed to roam the martial arts world and disturb the world, he would be punished by the faction by having his martial arts crippled. However, if Zhao De killed the young master, the faction would not let it go. They would definitely seek revenge. Then, he realized that the young master was not dead, but he had already regarded the young master as a dead man. "Do you have a complete version of the White Tiger power?" Chuli asked calmly. "Yes," Elder Song said solemnly. Chuli took a deep look at him and realized that Elder Song was not lying. He did have the complete White Tiger power technique. "Do you want to trade?" Chuli took out a jade bottle from his inner pocket and poured out a snow-white pill. A small knife, as thin as a cicada's wing, suddenly appeared between his fingers. With a gentle stroke, the pill was split into two. Chuli tossed him half a pill. "Take this. The other half must be consumed within a quarter of an hour, so that the medicinal effects won't disperse." Old Song took it and stared at the half pill that was emitting a strange smell with a gloomy expression. Chuli did not rush him. He just smiled at him. Elder Song was struggling internally. On one hand, he could not betray the White Tiger sect and leak the White Tiger power. On the other hand, he only had a few years to live, and the sect would not help him recover his martial arts. After a few breaths, the desire to survive overwhelmed everything else. He closed his eyes and swallowed the pill. Suddenly, a clear stream of energy circled around his organs and rushed into his dantian. His dry meridians seemed to have regained their warmth, and his dantian also produced a faint heat. It was as if a seed was about to break out of the soil, but could not. This feeling made him anxious and eager. Chuli smiled. "Is it true? Follow me," Elder Song said solemnly. Chuli nodded in satisfaction. "If you don't play tricks, I can give you the other half any time." "Don't worry," Elder Song said slowly. The two returned to his residence and went into the study. Elder Song took out a thick poetry book from the bookshelf and handed it to him. "The incantation and the White Tiger portrait are inside. My painting skills may be average, so I can't achieve both form and spirit." Chuli quickly flipped through it. There were 9 White Tiger portraits and almost 100 words of incantation. He was deep in thought. These 9 portraits were different from the sun-cultivating White Tiger portrait, but there was a faint connection between them. These incantations were profound and difficult to understand, causing him to frown. "Your martial arts inheritance uses the enlightenment method, right?" Chuli asked. "Yes." Elder Song nodded. "The 9 portraits use the enlightenment method. Practice it once for me to see," Chuli said. Although Elder Song wondered why Chuli wanted to watch him practice, since he could not see what was in his mind, he did not disobey. 15 minutes passed quickly. The restless feeling in his dantian was getting weaker. If the medicine did not catch up soon, he would not be able to recover his martial arts. He was so close to success that he could not resist Chuli's request. Thus, he sat on the bed and began to channel. The 9 White Tiger portraits appeared in his mind one by one. Chuli saw what he was thinking and nodded to himself. This Elder Song was really honest. He really passed the White Tiger power to him and did not play tricks to harm him. "It's done," Chuli said. Elder Song opened his eyes with a complicated expression. "Actually, it's useless to know the White Tiger power. The incantation is difficult, and the White Tiger sect has a large number of complicated cultivation notes. Without these notes, even if you get the incantation, you won't be able to understand it and cultivate it." Chuli said, "You don't have to worry about that. Come, this is the other half." He threw the remaining half of the pill to Elder Song. Elder Song hesitated for a moment. He looked at him and put it in his mouth. He was also worried that Chuli would play tricks in the pill. He was not a grandmaster now and did not have a sense of danger. Even if it was poisonous, he would not be able to detect it in advance. However, as things had come to this, he had no other choice. He could only bet on Chuli's character. A wave of fresh air entered his organs and gathered in his dantian. The restless force suddenly expanded like a seed breaking out of the ground. Traces of inner energy gathered in his dantian and became thicker and thicker, from an acquired master to an innate master, and then to a grandmaster. Bang! His clothes fluttered even though there was no wind. His snow-white eyebrows fluttered as if he was in a strong wind. Chuli smiled as he looked at him. Elder Song opened his eyes. They were bright, as if they were solid. Chuli fist saluted. "Congratulations." Elder Song fist saluted. He was inexplicably grateful. He did not expect Chuli to keep his promise. Chuli said, "Since we had a pleasant trade, I will give you a word of advice." "Go ahead," Elder Song said. Chuli said, "Leave this place, lest the White Tiger sect takes their anger out on you. The world is big. There is nowhere you can't go." Elder Song frowned at him. Chuli said, "Because you were a cripple, the Holy Church's elders did not kill you." Elder Song shook his head. "I will not abandon young master. He is already dead." Chuli Fist saluted and glided away. He appeared in Gale Branch. When he arrived at the house of the 2 women, he saw a beautiful middle-aged woman treating the 2 women. The 2 women sat side by side on the bed, while the beautiful middle-aged woman sat behind them. She pressed her palm on each of their backs as white steam rose from her hair. Chu Li sat at the side and watched without disturbing them. After 10 minutes, the middle-aged woman withdrew her palms and opened her eyes to look at him. Chu Li fist saluted. This is Masters Junior Tsunghua. Li Rulin opened her eyes. Chu Li said, Masters Junior Tsung is here to help us, right? Chapter 990. Chu Li's expression darkened as he sneered. Masters Junior Tsung is really patient. Through his omniscient mirror, he saw Masters Junior Tsung enter Elder Song's secret chamber and take Zheng Yinwu's life before leaving silently. Although Zheng Yinwu's martial arts was strong, he was inferior to Masters Junior Tsung. However, when Zheng Yinwu attacked, Masters Junior Tsung did nothing and allowed the two ladies to be severely injured or even lose their lives. This made him secretly angry. If she did not help, the two ladies might have lost their lives. Once their heads were smashed, the light pill would be useless. Tsunghua was beautiful but cold, as if she did not care about anything. Tsunghua said, It's rare that you managed to escape from him. Masters Junior Tsung, we almost died. Li Rulin shook her head. 100-year master is indeed 100-year master. Tsunghua said, Zhao Dai's light blade is indeed extraordinary. Her cultivation level was higher than Chu Li's, but the light blade was not as powerful. She could not have avoided the previous attack, and the timing was so perfect that there was no way to avoid it. A person like him had a bright future. Chu Li fist saluted and said coldly, Masters Junior Tsung, you flatter me, but your cultivation level is too low. Tsunghua shook her head. You'll definitely die if you fight Zheng Yinwu alone. I knew the saint wouldn't leave us alone. Li Rulin smiled. Tsunghua said, You guys follow me back to Great Light Peak. Zhao Dai, you too, go to meet the saint. Chu Li scoffed and nodded. Tsunghua said coldly, You're lucky this time, but you might not be able to next time. Chu Li could not be bothered to listen to her lecture and interrupted her. All right, let's go back to Great Light Peak. The four of them arrived at Great Light Peak the next evening, and Chu Li returned to Spirit Medicine Nursery. His light pill and miracle cure pill were refined by the spirit herbs he obtained from Spirit Medicine Nursery. The rejuvenation pill was not the real rejuvenation pill. It was the rejuvenation pill mentioned in the treasured pill scripture. The effect of the miracle cure pill was similar to the miracle cure pill. It required several extinct spirit herbs, which is why no one could recognize it. He asked the spirit crane to help him find it, and secretly refined 2 pills. He could not use it, but he could give it to others. This time, he exchanged it for the white tiger power, which was very useful. Before he could refine a cauldron of radiant pills, he was summoned again. The moonlight was like water. When he arrived at the top of the Great Light Peak, the moonlight made the surrounding ice peaks look like silver peaks. The Divine Light Basilica was brightly lit like a celestial palace. The astral wind was even fiercer than it was during the day. It felt like a knife was cutting his face. As soon as he stepped into the main hall, the strong wind instantly disappeared, and it was as warm as spring. When he arrived at the main hall, Saint's son Mingyue was sitting behind a desk, looking down at him quietly. Her bright eyes, which were as clear as autumn water, seemed to be able to see through his internal organs. Greetings, Saint. Chu Li gave a fist salute. Son Mingyue waved her hand. Since you've arrived at Gale City, why didn't you obediently cultivate in isolation? You've caused so much trouble. Chu Li replied, Saint, if I can hurt Zheng Yinwu, who else can I not? It's a waste to send me to Gale City. Oh, Son Mingyue calmly said, I heard that you've secretly refined quite a number of light pills. Chu Li's expression changed slightly. Yes, I've refined some. If I had these light pills, I would have saved many of the Holy Church of Light's disciples. It's much better than killing your enemies. You have amazing talent in alchemy. It's difficult for other pill-refining masters to refine light pills, but you can do it easily. It'll be a great waste if you don't refine pills. Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li shook his head. I'm not going to refine pills. Then you should stay in Gale City. Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li scoffed. All right, I'll stay in Gale Branch. Sun Mingyue's bright eyes flashed with a hint of coldness, as if a knife was slashing at him. He did not take a step back and coldly glared at her. Sun Mingyue calmly said, "Go back to Gale City." Chu gave a fist salute and turned to leave. Sun Mingyue helplessly shook her head as she watched him stride away. Only Li Ruolin could control such an unruly person. Unfortunately, Li Ruolin was in love with Ji Xin. Sigh, she gently shook her head and stopped thinking about it. She made up her mind to wear Zhao Dai down and leave him hanging for a few years to see if he would give in. Chu Li angrily refined spirit pills for 2 days and 2 nights in the spirit medicine nursery before returning to Gale City. Gale City had completely become Gale Branch's territory. When Flaming Sun Sect and Tian Luo Sect saw this, they did not deliberately target them. They only watched from the sidelines to see what the White Tiger Sect would do. They did not expect the White Tiger Sect to only send an ordinary martial arts master to rebuild the Roaring Tiger clan. When the White Tiger Sect gave in, Gale City immediately calmed down. Chu Li instructed the 3 of them to leave Gale City and go into isolated cultivation deep in the mountains outside the city. They did not have to look for him, as he would not be back for some time. Ko Chiong and the other 2 dared not ask too much. Gale Branch was strong and had high morale, so there was no need for him to worry. Early in the morning, Chu Li and Xiao Qi slowly left King An's imperial residence. Chu Li had already been crippled of his martial arts. He wore a green robe and looked like a scholar. There was no longer any trace of martial arts on him, and his eyes were dimmer. In the past, his appearance did not show any signs of martial arts cultivation, but his eyes were brighter than ordinary people. If one looked closely, one could still feel his strength. Now, he had completely returned to being an ordinary person. On the other hand, Xiao Qi wore a white robe and a white veil covered her face, revealing only a pair of clear eyes. She was cold and aloof as she sat on a white horse. She looked elegant, calm, and dignified. The 2 of them rode their horses through the bustling streets and out of the south gate. When they arrived at the parting pavilion about a mile away from the gate, they saw a few groups of gloomy protectors, which scared the passers-by so much that they avoided this area. Prince Bao, Prince Kong, Prince Jing, Prince Ping, and even Prince Cheng were standing quietly in the farewell pagoda, surrounded by their protectors. The protectors surrounded the pagoda so tightly that not even a fly could get close. They wore purple robes, and their dignified auras filled the pavilion. "Young Chu," Prince Bao called out from afar. Chu Li gave everyone a fist salute on his horse and arrived in front of the pavilion with Xiao Qi. He slowly dismounted and stepped into the pavilion. On the other hand, Xiao Qi sat on her horse and did not enter the pavilion. "Young Chu, looks like your martial arts cultivation has really been crippled." Prince Bao smiled. Chu Li nodded. "I can cultivate again if my martial arts cultivation is crippled. It's not a big deal." "Good. You're a real man with such heroism." Prince Kong chuckled. King Jing said, "Chief Chu, be careful." Chu Li nodded. "Don't worry, Your Highness." King Ping did not say much and only nodded. King Cheng forced a smile. "I'll look forward to Chief Chu's return soon. Thank you for your blessings, Your Highness." Chu Li smiled. King Ping picked up a jar of wine and filled a few bowls before he passed them to the people. Chu Li picked up the bowls. "Thank you, Your Royal Highness. I'll be on my way after this bowl of wine. If there's a chance in the future, I'll repay you." He finished the wine in one gulp and gave a fist salute before he left the pavilion. He leaped onto his horse, and the 2 of them rode away. Young Chu's heroism is really impressive. Prince Bao smiled. "My brother's anger should have dissipated by now." Chapter 991. Xiao Qi walked beside him and said, "I didn't expect them to come to send us off." Chu Li smiled. "I'm popular." Xiao Qi glared at him. "They're here to watch you fail, aren't they?" Chu Li shook his head and laughed. "The human heart is sinister, but not to this extent. Our journey won't be peaceful, and it's all thanks to you, Lady Xiao Qi. Why don't you want the protectors to follow us?" Xiao Qi frowned. "You're enough, Lady Xiao Qi." I don't want anyone to disturb us. Xiao Qi frowned even more and stared at him in dissatisfaction. This isn't the time to fool around. Lady Xiao Qi, you've been cultivating in isolation, but the regal sword scripture is a sword scripture. It needs to be honed in actual combat. Your progress has stagnated because of the lack of actual combat. This trip to the Imperial Mausoleum is your journey of cultivation. If you're not careful, you'll lose your life. That's why you can only move forward bravely. You can't retreat or avoid. I hope you've made the right choice, Xiao Qi said slowly. She seemed to have reached a bottleneck in the regal sword scripture, and it was useless no matter how much she cultivated. Chu Li's earlier words about forgetting emotions helped her a little, but the lack of actual combat was indeed a big problem. She suddenly felt a warmth in her heart. Even at this time, he was still thinking about her. He was putting his life in her hands just to hone his cultivation. Chu Li glanced at her and smiled to himself. The two of them rode on the road. After passing through Qingyan town, there were fewer pedestrians on the road, as if they were the only two people left in the world. After traveling for half a day, they went into a post house to rest. Seeing that Chu Li looked normal and did not look tired, Xiao Qi was secretly relieved. After being crippled of his martial arts, his body would become extremely weak, even weaker than an ordinary person. If he continued to travel, he would easily fall sick. Xiao Qi took out braised meat and dry food, as well as a few fruits, and placed them on the table. Chu Li first ate a fruit, then a few pieces of braised meat and dry food. After drinking a few mouthfuls of water, he sighed. Soon, it won't be this peaceful anymore. You'll have to prepare for battle. Xiao Qi chewed on the dry food slowly and nodded gently. Chu Li pointed at the forest opposite. There are 4 masters over there, and they're all masters of swordsmanship. Xiao Qi frowned at him. Chu Li smiled. Although my martial arts have been crippled, my senses are still there. Xiao Qi swallowed the dry food in her mouth and took a sip of water. After wiping her hands with a silk handkerchief, she lifted her sword and glided to the top of the gazebo. She shrunk her body and hid in the direction Chu Li pointed at. The 4 men in black stepped on the treetops and approached him. When they saw Chu Li sitting alone, they were overjoyed. They drew their swords and used the sun-piercing white rainbow to stab down from the sky. TSS, 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 TSS. Xiao Qi appeared behind them and slashed their throats with a flash of her sword. She could also see through people's hearts and sense their killing intent. Naturally, she would not be polite. Pung, 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 pung. The 4 of them fell below the gazebo, unable to step into it. Their bodies twitched as they died. The sword chi of the regal sword sutra instantly shattered their brains, and they could not be more dead. Chu Li clapped his hands and smiled. Lady Xiao Yi's sword technique is profound. I'm impressed. Xiao Qi replied, It's very normal. Chu Li smiled. These 4 people's sword techniques are extraordinary. Unfortunately, they were eager to kill me, but there will be more masters in the future. Xiao Qi slowly nodded. You have to be careful too. Even if you lose your martial arts, you should still have your step technique, right? What about your divine power? Chu Li replied, I still have my divine power. God's limbs too? Yes. Xiao Qi let out a long sigh of relief. If he had God's limbs, he could escape at any time, so she did not have to worry. She then rolled her eyes at Chu Li. He had put it so nicely that she thought he had entrusted everything to her. Now, it seemed like she had been thinking too much. Chu Li said, God's limbs can only reach places that I've been to before. I've never been to the Imperial Mausoleum, so I can't rely on my divine power to go there. I can only walk there, and I'll need you to escort me. That's true. Xiao Qi pondered and nodded. The 2 of them continued on their way. Along the way, there were assassinations from masters from time to time. Some fought alone, some in groups, and some in groups of 3 to 5. Chu Li exposed their tracks one by one so that Xiao Qi could prepare in advance and kill them in one strike. Since Chu Li had God's limbs, Xiao Qi could kill without restraint. After 3 days, more than 40 masters had died in Xiao Qi's hands. Every day, more than 10 masters died under her sword. In a short period of time, her title as the Ruthless Fairy had spread. Her swordsmanship was unpredictable and unavoidable. Almost every time she attacked, someone would die. The reason why she was called the Ruthless Fairy was because of her fairy-like temperament. She wore a white tunic and a white veil that covered her face. She had a cool temperament and was otherworldly. Shao-Chi's swordsmanship improved by leaps and bounds. She had been training hard in seclusion, and her understanding of swordsmanship was enough, but she lacked real sharpening. Moreover, she did not have many opportunities to fight since she was young. Even when she was adventuring in the martial arts world, because of her cold personality, she rarely caused trouble and did not have many fights. This time, when she escorted Chu Li and dealt with many assassinations, the 3 days of intense battles were comparable to years of fighting. Her original understanding of swordsmanship was gradually applied to swordsmanship, and her swordsmanship improved rapidly. Her original bottleneck was slowly loosened, and she was about to advance another level. Chu Li clearly saw her changes and was happy for her. He was strong enough now, so he was not afraid of Shao-Chi's rapid advancement. He was confident that he could break through her inner state. That evening, the sunset illuminated the dense forest. The two of them led the horses deep into the forest and tied the horses to a tree so that they could graze on the tender grass. The two of them chopped down 3 trees and sat on the tree stumps to make a bonfire. The weather was cold and winter was coming soon. They sat next to the bonfire and roasted 2 pheasants. The golden oil dripped onto the firewood and emitted a rich aroma. Chu Li suddenly turned his head to look behind Shao-Chi and sighed. "Someone's coming." Shao-Chi leaped up and went up to the treetop. Before she could move again, a white shadow shot in front of her. Ding, 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 ding. Shao-Chi's sword was like lightning, but a slender finger kept hitting the blade, making the sound of metal colliding. Shao-Chi's sword could not break through the opponent's finger and was slightly inferior. The owner of the finger was a woman dressed in white with a white veil covering her face. Only a pair of phoenix eyes could be seen. She was graceful and charming. When she attacked, it was like she was dancing and it was pleasing to the eye. "Miss Liu," Chu Li said. The woman in white paused and was almost pierced by Shao-Chi's sword. She leaped in front of Chu Li. Shao-Chi saw that the situation was not good and stood in front of her, afraid that she would hurt Chu Li. Chu Li smiled. "My lady, Miss Liu, both of you should take a break." Lu Yurong said lightly, "Third Lady Xiao, your martial arts did not improve. You are no match for me." Shao-Chi said, "Not necessarily." "All right." Lu Yurong lightly hit out with her palm. The tip of Shao-Chi's sword stabbed into her palm. Lu Yurong turned her wrist and rotated her finger. Like sweeping a bowstring, she deflected the tip of the sword and hit Shao-Chi's chest. Bang! Shao-Chi took a hit and swung her sword. Lu Yurong took a step to avoid it and hit Shao-Chi's shoulder again. "Miss Liu," Chu Li said. Chapter 992. Chu Li sighed. "Miss Liu, you're here to watch me play." "Of course." Lu Yurong chuckled. "I went into isolated cultivation just to surpass you. You, on the other hand, easily cripple my martial arts. How could I let go of such a good opportunity?" Chu Li said, "Are you happy now?" He could see that Lu Yurong's martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. It seemed that not only him, but Lu Yurong too. The Empyrean fairy power that she cultivated was the most compatible with her physique. Cultivating, it was twice the result with half the effort. The Empyrean fairy power was also a top-notch technique that was not inferior to the regal sword scripture. Her cultivation speed was faster than Shao-Chi's. Lu Yurong's eyes were full of smiles. "Of course I'm happy to see you like this." Shao-Chi frowned at her. The two of them had been competing for many years. Before Chu Li appeared, Shao-Chi was always suppressed by Lu Yurong. Every time they fought, she would lose. Lu Yurong was meticulous and meticulous. Shao-Chi was no match for her. It seemed that Shao-Chi's martial arts was not as good as Lu Yurong's. The regal sword scripture was an ancient study that could allow one to become an enlightened master. To cultivate to this level, one should be the best among the younger generation. Other than Chu Li, no one could compare. However, Lu Yurong's Empyrean fairy heart scripture could also allow one to become an enlightened master. It was also extraordinary. Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong glanced at Xiao Qi. Ruthless Fairy, that's a good title. Xiao Qi smiled faintly without saying a word. She knew that she could not win against Lu Yurong. The best way to deal with Lu Yurong was to speak less. Lu Yurong said, Truly, everyone says that you need to rely on a woman to protect you. You're a disgrace to men. So be it. Truly said, I can't just die alone and let them kill me, right? Seeing you like this, I didn't come for nothing. Lu Yurong chuckled. Truly said, Miss Lu, you're really free. You came all this way just to watch me. Now that you're done, shouldn't you leave? No rush. I want to enjoy it slowly. Lu Yurong smiled. Xiao Qi can't protect you alone. How about I lend you a hand? Chu Li quickly waved his hand. I dare not trouble you, Miss Lu. Please leave. Lu Yurong snorted softly and said, I'm not leaving. I must help you. Just remember to return the favor in the future. Chu Li shook his head. This isn't considered a favor. Sending charcoal in snowy weather. This is a life-saving grace. Lu Yurong scoffed. Xiao Qi said faintly, Miss Lu, I can handle it. You don't have to stay. Lu Yurong said, Third Miss Xiao is not modest at all. Can you really handle it? If I didn't eliminate some of the people on the periphery, do you think that only these people will want to kill Chu Li? Chu Li has offended many people, and there are countless people who want to kill him. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. Xiao Qi replied calmly, No matter how many people there are, I can handle them. With Chu Li's god's limbs, she was very confident. If it came down to it, she could just run away with Chu Li. There was no need for Lu Yurong to get involved. If Lu Yurong was up to no good and turned against them at the crucial moment, that would be fatal. Moreover, looking at Chu Li, he seemed to trust Lu Yurong quite a bit. This made her a little uncomfortable. No matter how open-minded a woman was, it was inevitable that she would be angry when faced with such a situation. Chu Li nodded. I will listen to my lady. Lu Yurong's bright eyes became colder. She looked at Chu Li. Have you thought it through? Do you really want to do this? Miss Lu, if you cause trouble, I will remember this debt. Chu Li scoffed. He could see that Lu Yurong was angry and would only make things worse. Lu Yurong scoffed. Third Miss Xiao can handle it. I want to see if you're just bluffing. As soon as she finished speaking, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from outside. Then, 24 men in black appeared and surrounded the three of them. Lu Yurong frowned and glanced at them. Chu Li said, Miss Lu, you didn't call them here, did you? Lu Yurong scoffed. So what if I did? Chu Li knew that these people were not with Lu Yurong. Their body movement technique was very fast. It seemed like they had already determined their whereabouts. It seemed like there was a tracking master among them. They should not be underestimated. Xiao Qi looked at Lu Yurong. Don't leave a single one alive. Kill them all, one of the men in black said. As soon as he finished speaking, a white shadow flashed. Xiao Qi appeared in front of him. Her sword flashed and pierced through his throat. The man in black wanted to make a move, but he felt pain in his throat. Boundless darkness surged and swallowed him. Xiao Qi's body movement technique was very fast. The power of the regal sword scripture was amazing. Although it was slightly weaker than Lu Yurong, it was easy for her to deal with the others. Most of the others surrounded Xiao Qi while a small group attacked Chu Li. Lu Yurong smiled at Chu Li. She had no intention of fighting. Chu Li glanced at her helplessly. He took a step forward and avoided a sword. He then took another step and avoided another sword. It was as if he was taking a leisurely stroll. He avoided a sword with every step he took. 6 people surrounded him, but none of them could touch him. Lu Yurong smiled. Looks like your eyesight is still there. Xiao Qi suddenly flashed and appeared behind Chu Li. Her sword pierced through one person's throat. The sword flashed again and pierced through another person. One sword for one person. It was clean and efficient. However, there were more than 10 people surrounding her. She needed to kill them one by one. Chu Li said, All right, Miss Lu, I owe you a favor. Lu Yurong chuckled. Her body turned into a blurry white shadow. Her Empyrean fairy palm was like a butterfly flipping through flowers. Bang, 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 bang. Wherever the palm shadow passed, 6 men in black let out a muffled sound and flew out. They fell to the ground and stopped moving. They were dead. Chu Li shook his head. Xiao Qi frowned. Her sword was fast enough, but it was still slower than Lu Yurong. However, she was not impatient. Instead, she focused more on her sword. Lu Yurong flashed again. Her Empyrean fairy palm danced like a butterfly. Her delicate white hand looked like the palm of death to the men in black. They desperately wanted to avoid it, and even wanted to escape, but it was too late. Wherever the palm energy passed, they flew out and died instantly. Xiao Qi kept swinging her sword. Her movements became faster and faster. Her swordsmanship became more clean, simple, and fast. In the end, her sword even circled 3 men's throats. Her speed was 2 times faster than before. It was not any slower than Lu Yurong's killing speed. Lu Yurong could also see that Xiao Qi's swordsmanship had improved by another level. She scoffed softly. Truly, you have a good plan. You're using these assassins as practice for Lady Xiao Qi. How devoted. Truly smiled. Thank you, Miss Lu. If there's nothing else, please leave. Burn the bridge after crossing the river. But I really don't have anything else to do. Lu Yurong said, so I can accompany you and see how many assassins there are? Forget it. Chu Li shook his head. Lu Yurong frowned. Her eyes turned cold. Chu Li did not care. If the 2 women were together, even if one was smart and the other cold, they were enemies. They had been fighting for so many years. They would definitely turn the world upside down. He did not want to be involved. Okay, if you want to follow, then follow, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li looked at her. Xiao Qi said, Miss Lu will help. Of course. Lu Yurong smiled. If Chu Li is in danger, I will help. Chapter 993. After killing all the assassins in the surroundings, the 3 of them could only find another place to settle down. In another part of the forest, there was a bonfire, and the 3 of them sat beside it. Both Lu Yurong and Xiao Qi took off their white veils. One of them had a charming face, while the other had a pure and beautiful face. Both of them were good at their own game, and it was hard to tell who was better. The surrounding air became much fresher. King Ping has relinquished his military authority. I heard that you were the one who persuaded him. Lu Yurong tossed a piece of firewood into the room and dusted her hands. Then, she looked at Chu Li with her beautiful eyes. Chu Li sat opposite her. Who said that? What do you think? Lu Yurong said. Chu Li pondered for a moment before he shook his head. It's not my fault. King Ping is disheartened and doesn't want to fight at the border anymore. He's tired of it. He's killed so many Li Dynasty's cavalrymen and protected the Ji Dynasty, but he couldn't protect Madame. His heart has turned cold. Don't tell me you're blaming the Emperor. Lu Yurong smiled faintly. A little, Chu Li replied. The Emperor could protect all the Wang Ye, but he didn't care about the Wang Fei's life or death. Furthermore, it was the Wang Fei that was not by his side, guarding the border. She needed someone to protect her, but the Emperor couldn't protect her. How could King Ping not feel resentful? If he didn't express his resentment, he would have buried it in his heart. Instead, it would have been stronger and left behind hidden dangers. If he expressed it, the Emperor would feel relieved. Lu Yurong said, so His Majesty threw the secret Guardians Hall's deputy commander into the Imperial Mausoleum, and threw you, a centurion, in as well. Chu Li glanced at her without saying a word. Lu Yurong chuckled. Or is it because you blindly interfered and still have a conscience that you ended up like this? Why bother asking if you already know? Chu Li scoffed. Let's see if you're lying. Lu Yurong smiled and said, at least you didn't lie to me. But it's really tragic for you to end up like this. You've been crippled of your martial arts and sent to the Imperial Mausoleum. There's no hope for you to return to the fairies' capital. Your life is over. Chu Li nodded. Yes, my life is over. But I see that you are quite calm. Lu Yurong looked him up and down. She initially thought that Chu Li would be in a daze. Confidence did not come out of thin air. It was because of his strength. Chu Li was in high spirits because of his martial arts. If he lost his martial arts, he would naturally lose his confidence. Unexpectedly, Chu Li was still in high spirits and did not look down at all. She could not help but admire him for being able to remain calm and unmoved in the face of adversity. This was true courage. She had always admired Chu Li's great courage, which was far beyond what she could achieve. Chu Li said, "Even if I lose my martial arts, I can live a free and unfettered life with my intelligence." He he he. Lu Yurong giggled. "Xiao Yao Zizai you wish." Chu Li shook his head and said nothing. Xiao Qi faintly asked, "Lu Yurong, what do you know?" "Oh, third Miss Xiao, are you worried?" Lu Yurong looked at her with a smile. "I won't say it." Xiao Qi frowned. "Will there be trouble at the Imperial Mausoleum?" Lu Yurong smiled faintly. Chu Li asked, "King Jing, are you relieved now?" Lu Yurong pursed her lips and smiled. King Ping might be taking a step back in order to advance. Chu Li secretly sighed. Lu Yurong was indeed smart. He said, "No matter what," he took a step back. "King Jing can take this opportunity to infiltrate the military. Miss Lu, you'll be very busy too. Do you still have the time to come and watch me?" "There's no hurry." Lu Yurong's fair and delicate lips curled up. She was excited when she saw King Jing's hope of ascending to the throne. Since her biggest opponent was in trouble, of course, she had to come and show off. Xiao Qi said, "There's still 10 years. 10 years may seem fast, but it can also be very slow. Who knows what will happen in the future?" She said, "Chu Li has practiced martial arts for less than 2 years. It'll be faster if he cultivates again. Besides, it's not that difficult for me to ask for a life recovery pill from Green Deer Cliff." No matter how indifferent she was and how competitive she could not bear to see Lu Yurong being so smug. Especially when Chu Li was down, it was like pouring salt on his wound, making him feel even more pain. Lu Yurong's expression changed slightly. She thought of Xiao Yueling and could not help but scoff. Crippling his martial arts is for the Emperor to see. How can he recover so quickly? Is he messing with the Emperor? Chu Li smiled. "Miss Lu, although I can't help King Jing succeed, it's still easy for me to ruin his plans." Lu Yurong squinted her eyes. Chu Li and her stared at each other. Their eyes were reflecting the fire. Chu Li suddenly looked to his left and raised his voice. "Fa Yuan, since you're here, come out and meet me. I'm about Buddha." A Buddhist chant was heard. It was peaceful and quiet. It slowly traveled into their ears. Fa Yuan's gray robe fluttered. He came to the bonfire and bowed with pressed palms. "Brother Chu, ladies." Chu Li smiled. "Fa Yuan, are you here to laugh at me?" Fa Yuan smiled. "The world is unpredictable. I didn't think that Brother Chu would have such a day. The world is unpredictable. I didn't think that I would meet you, Fa Yuan, under such circumstances." Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong scoffed. "Monk, why are you here?" Fa Yuan smiled. "If almsgiver Lu can come, why can't I? They're just some small fry. They can't even withstand a single blow." Chu Li smiled. "There's no need for you to come. If Brother Chu is hurt by these small fry, it'll be a great shame." Fa Yuan shook his head. Lu Yurong scoffed. "Monk, you and Chu Li are known as the Twin Prides. Are you afraid that your name will be tarnished?" Fa Yuan smiled without saying a word. Xiao Qi asked, "Master Fa Yuan, do you know the truth about the Imperial Mausoleum? The inner mausoleum, the outer mausoleum, and adjacent town?" Fa Yuan nodded. "Brother Chu's martial arts will be crippled. He'll enter the small town next to the Imperial Mausoleum and serve there." Lu Yurong scoffed. "I'm here on King Jing's orders to inform the mayor to take care of Chu Li. I'll give you a job. Are you satisfied?" "Thank you, King Jing." Chu Li fist saluted. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Fa Yuan said, "The people serving in the town are sent to guard the Imperial Mausoleum. Some of the residents are from the outer mausoleum, and some are family members from the inner mausoleum. The small town is very safe. You don't have to worry." Xiao Qi sighed in relief. Chu Li said, "Let's hurry up tomorrow and reach adjacent town as soon as possible." He chatted with Fa Yuan and asked about the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. He wanted to know if there was a way to restrain it. Fa Yuan shook his head. The reincarnation temple's inheritance was completely different from the Titanium Temple and the Tempest Temple. Moreover, the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture had always been mysterious. He really did not know how to restrain it. For the next 2 days, The journey was very quiet. It was as if the assassins did not dare to come after seeing that there were so many of them and tactfully left. On the afternoon of the third day, they arrived at a small town that was about the same size as Qingyan Town. It was bustling with people. The four of them went straight to the town defense prefecture. The town defense prefecture was located in the center of the town. It looked shabby and dilapidated. It was not even close to being luxurious. Moreover, the security was lax. There were only 2 protectors guarding the gate. Other than that, there were no other protectors in the prefecture. Chang Gui was short and plump. He sat in an armchair in the main hall of the town defense prefecture. He was smiling and did not look dignified at all. Instead, he looked like a spring breeze. He was a grandmaster with a profound cultivation level. Chang Gui sized Chu Li up. "Head Chief Chu Li, I've heard of your name here." Chu Li fist saluted. Chapter 994. The four of them looked at Chang Gui. Chang Gui was still smiling at Chu Li. Sweeping a street shouldn't be a difficult task, right? Chu Li gave a fist salute. Yes. Chang Gui stared at him as if he was trying to read his every expression. In the end, he shook his head in disappointment. "All right then, you should take a rest since you just arrived. Don't stay in bed because you're sick. You can start tomorrow. Come over tomorrow after breakfast, and someone will bring you along." "Yes." Chu Li revealed a smile and slowly asked, "I wonder which of the mayor's relatives you cherish the most." The question was abrupt and strange. Chang Gui frowned at him. Chu Li shook his head. "Should I find my own place to stay?" "You can stay wherever you want as long as you don't delay the task." Chang Gui waved his hand impatiently. Chu Li gave him a fist salute. "Goodbye." The four of them left the town defense prefecture with unpleasant expressions. It was obvious that the job of sweeping a street was a show of strength. He, a dignified rank 1 Imperial Guard, sweeping the streets was simply an insult to him. This city guard seemed to be smiling, but his eyes were filled with hostility. Lu Yurong suddenly burst into laughter. "Sweeping a street, that's a good job. I want to visit tomorrow and learn from everyone in Fairy's capital. I'll help you make a name for yourself." Xiao Qi looked at her in dissatisfaction. Lu Yurong smiled. "Chu Li, why don't you reject the job? If I do, there's a better job waiting for me." Chu Li said, "Transporting feces. That's even more vicious." Lu Yurong exclaimed. Fa Yuan asked, "Brother Chu, are you going to accept it just like that?" Chu Li was deep in thought. He smiled. "He's the local tyrant. Of course, I won't sweep the street. Then what should we do?" Fa Yuan said, "He's in a high position. I can only obey him and not disobey him." The town defense prefecture was the highest official in the city and reported directly to the imperial court. Chu Li was now assigned to the imperial mausoleum. If he did not listen to the town defense prefecture and submitted a report, the emperor would be furious and give him a heavier punishment. Not only would he not be able to return, but he would also be in a worse situation. He was now crippled of his martial arts and was waiting for the emperor to let him return to Fairy's capital so that he could quickly recover his martial arts. All he was waiting for was a word from the emperor. Chu Li smiled. "Everyone has a weakness." Fa Yuan looked at him in confusion. Xiao Qi said, "I'll buy a residence first and settle down." Chu Li shook his head. "There's no rush. We'll stay in an inn first." They quickly found an inn in the city and asked for a small courtyard. Fa Yuan and Lu Yurong had no intention of leaving. Chu Li ordered a banquet and sat in the gazebo in the courtyard. Lu Yurong ate a few mouthfuls of food and took 2 sips of wine. She smiled and said, "Fine, I'll help you plead for him. Give him His Highness King Jing's letter." Chu Li shook his head. "Forget it." Lu Yurong gave him a sidelong glance. "Why? You don't want to owe His Highness King Jing a favor?" Chu Li said, "I'm just afraid that His Highness King Jing isn't as influential as you think." Lu Yurong smiled and shook her head. "You think too highly of him." Chu Li shook his head and smiled without saying a word. Chang Gui sat in the hall and rubbed his bulging belly with satisfaction. The feeling of stepping on a god's favored one was too mesmerizing. It made him excited and satisfied. He stroked his beard and sighed again. He wanted to continue. Unfortunately, Chu Li was too tactful and did not give him a chance to act up. He thought that Chu Li would not be able to keep his cool when he heard about this lowly task. After all, he was young and full of vigor. He would be unconvinced and question him. Then, he would ask him if he wanted to do this task. Chu Li would definitely say no. Then he would announce his other task, which was to help transport excrement. At this time, he would not be able to refuse. If he did, he would have to write a book to make this God's favored one fall into the dust and never be able to make a comeback. Thinking of this, he was inexplicably excited. He licked his lips as if he was facing a feast. Then, he shook his head and sighed. It was a pity that Chu Li was tactful and knew when to yield. He agreed immediately. This guy was so slippery that he dodged a bullet. Suddenly, he felt something and raised his head. Lu Yurong, whose face was covered by a white veil and was dressed in white, was standing in the hall. His heart skipped a beat. This woman's cultivation level was very high. However, no matter how high her cultivation level was, she would not dare to do anything to him. His Royal Highness King Jing has a letter from Mayor Chong. She took out the letter from her sleeves and gently let go. The waterproof envelope floated as if it was carried by an invisible hand and arrived in front of Chong Gui. Chong Gui received it calmly. After tearing it open, he glanced at the white paper and gently placed it on the table beside him. "Mayor Chong, what do you think?" Lu Yurong asked. Chong Gui grinned and said, "This Chu Li's reputation is quite extraordinary. He hasn't even arrived yet, but the letters from the Royal Highnesses have already arrived. To be honest, not only have I received a letter from His Royal Highness King Jing, but I've also received letters from Prince Bao, Prince Kong, and King Ping. They've asked me to take care of Chu Li." Lu Yurong frowned and suddenly understood. Whatever His Royal Highness King Jing thought of, it was impossible for the Royal Highness to not have thought of it. "I can't afford to offend the Royal Highnesses." Chong Gui shook his head and sighed. "But rules are rules. Without rules, nothing can be done. I'm under the orders of the Imperial Court and His Majesty to guard this city. I have to enforce the law and do things according to the rules. I can't be biased. Changing to a leisurely job isn't to the point of being biased, is it?" Lu Yurong frowned and stared at him. Her bright eyes were clear and cold. She was secretly angry. She did not think that Chong Gui was a pure and honest official. He was just seizing the opportunity to show off his strong points in order to gain the emperor's favor. He was an opportunistic person who wanted to use Chu Li as a stepping stone to climb up. Chong Gui said in a low voice, "Chu Li wants to change his job. Others want to change their job too. Everyone is dissatisfied with their job. How can I be convinced by this?" Among those who were sent to the Imperial Mausoleum, some had a chance to make a comeback, especially those Imperial Court officials who did not know martial arts. After coming to adjacent town, they might be able to return to the Imperial Court. Others, on the other hand, had no chance to make a comeback. Chu Li was sent to the Imperial Mausoleum by the Emperor himself. He had deceived the Emperor and lost his reputation. Once he spoke, the Emperor would not go back on his word. How could he change it? Therefore, Chu Li had no chance to make a comeback. A person who could not make a comeback and was famous was the best stepping stone for Chong Gui. If Chong Gui taught him a lesson, he would be able to earn the reputation of an honest official and leave adjacent town. There was a chance that he could gain the Emperor's favor and return to Fairy's capital. Although the Royal Highnesses would blame him for not giving them face, as long as he had the reputation of an honest official and did what he wanted, they would eventually be convinced. Moreover, it did not matter even if they held a grudge against him, as long as he could return to Fairy's capital and leave this remote place. "Mayor Chong, you have a good plan. I'm just afraid that your plan won't work," Lu Yurong said coldly. "Chu Li is not someone you can bully." Chapter 995. 32-inch very well. Then we shall wait and see. Lu Yurong turned to leave. "I will personally report to the Royal Highnesses about Mayor Chang's straightforwardness." "Thank you." Chong Gui cupped his fist and smiled. "I can't wait for that." Lu Yurong sneered and turned to leave. Chong Gui stroked his beard and smiled. He was very satisfied with his response. King Jing was the next emperor, but once he became the emperor, he would have a different mindset. Not only would he not be angry at his rejection, but he would also value him. He could even reject King Jing, let alone others. How could he not trust such a loyal subject? Chang Gui's smile widened as he thought about it. As for Chu Li, he sneered. No matter how capable he was still a cripple after his martial arts were crippled. Now that he was in his own territory, he had no choice but to be obedient. This was a rare opportunity. The one he had been waiting for was finally here. He could not help but laugh. He happily dealt with the documents for a while before he got up and left the main hall. He went to the backyard garden and asked the maid lazily, "Where's young master?" He went out to play with madam. He should be back by now, right? Yes. The maid nodded softly. Chang Gui frowned as he looked at the sky. The sunset had dyed the garden a rosy color. His grandson and daughter-in-law should be home by now. His son died a violent death while adventuring in the martial arts world. His grandson was the only heir of the Chang family, so the Chang family's bloodline did not end. This only child was his lifeblood. His daughter-in-law was quite obedient and tried her best to take care of his grandson. She would come back early every day when he went out to play. Just then, hurried footsteps were heard. A beautiful young woman rushed in. She was dressed in a brocade gown, and her footsteps were strong. It was obvious that she was skilled in martial arts. Her face was pale, and she looked anxious. Her eyes were misty and looked like they were about to drip. "Xiao Yin, what happened?" Chang Gui frowned and stood up. "Father!" Xiao Yin shouted. An heir was kidnapped. Kidnapped? Chang Gui's expression changed. How many people? How did it get snatched? Chang heir, Chang San, and an heir were on our way back when we were ambushed and knocked unconscious in an alley. When we woke up, an heir was already gone. Xiao Yun gritted her teeth and said hatefully, "We didn't even see who did it. Their martial arts were too strong." "A grandmaster? It must be the grandmaster," Xiao Yun quickly said. "Father, quickly send someone to look for him. I'm worried that if we delay for too long." And Chang Gui was so angry that his whole body was trembling. And it was his lifeblood. Who would be so bold as to provoke him? How lawless. Even if he had to dig 3 feet into the ground, he would find these thieves and take back his grandson. "Guards!" Chang Gui yelled. "Master!" An old servant stepped forward and cupped his fists. The old servant was more than 10 years older than Chang Gui. Although his eyebrows and beard were all white, he was full of vigor. His eyes were like cold lightning, and his killing intent was dense. "Changda, pass down my order. Close the city gates and search every house." Chang Gui grunted. "Yes." The old servant Chang cupped his fists and replied, "But master, I'm afraid they're already outside the city." Xiao Yin quickly said, "They might have run out of the city. Search the city first." Chang Gui scoffed with a gloomy face. "Yes." Changda responded and glided out. Xiao Yin sat by the stone table and started sobbing. Chang Gui's face was gloomy. He did not move as he thought about who would kidnap his grandson. After a while, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and thought of Chu Li. Back then, Chu Li had asked who was the person he cared about the most among his relatives. Then, he changed the topic and only mentioned that one sentence. Thinking about it now, there was a deep meaning behind it. He already harbored evil intentions back then and wanted to do this. When he thought about this, he said, "Chang heir." "Yes, master." A middle-aged man glided over and gave a fist salute. "Get Chu Li here." "Yes." Chu Li soon appeared in the main hall of the town defense prefecture. He wore a green robe and looked upright and heroic. After he entered, Chang Gui sat in the armchair in the middle and stared at him like a hawk. He did not say a word. The main hall was shrouded in silence. The atmosphere was getting more and more oppressive. Seeing that he did not speak, Chu Li casually sat in the armchair and broke the silence. "Is there anything I can help you with, Sir Mayor?" "You did it right, Chu Li." Chang Gui retracted his sharp gaze and opened his fan with a swoosh. He asked with a smile. It was already late autumn. It was not a suitable season for fanning. Chu Li said, "What do you mean, Sir Mayor? I really don't understand." "You kidnapped my grandson, didn't you?" Chang Gui laughed. "You're indeed the famous Chu Li. You're so daring to do such a thing as soon as you enter the city. You're not brave enough to cross the river. He smiled as if he was joking. He did not show any anxiety and did not seem to care about his grandson. Chu Li said, Sir Mayor, I don't understand what you're saying. Sir Mayor's grandson was kidnapped? No wonder the city is in a mess. Chu Li, you don't have to act dumb. Chang Gue shook his head. You just want to change a job. Sure, I'll change it for you. What job does Sir Mayor want me to change? How about an idle job in the town defense prefecture? Chang Gue said. You don't have to come over. Thank you, Sir Mayor. Chu Li fist saluted. Chang Gue smiled and said, Can you hand over my grandson now? I really didn't kidnap Sir Mayor's grandson. Chu Li shook his head. How can I do such an illegal thing? Chang Gue frowned. He still had a smile on his face, but his gaze was cold. Chu Li sighed. Sir Mayor might have made a mistake. My grandson is still in the residence, but he thought he was kidnapped. Chang Gue frowned. He raised his voice. Guards. Chang Er glided in. Go and look for young master's room. Chang Gue ordered. Yes. Chang Er glided out. Soon, Chang Er rushed in like a gust of wind. Master, young master is sleeping on the bed. He's awake. There's no problem. Good. Chang Gue waved his hand and let out a sigh of relief. Chu Li smiled. Seems like Sir Mayor has made a mistake. I wonder if this job is still mine? Chang Gue's smile faded. His round face was covered with a layer of frost as he stared coldly at Chu Li. He wanted to punch Chu Li to death. Touching his grandson was tantamount to touching his reverse scale. How could he live if something happened to his grandson? He would not even have someone to send him off. How could he face his ancestors after he died? Chu Li deserved to die. He must not be forgiven. Chu Li grinned at him. Chang Gue said coldly, You can go back and wait. Chu Li laughed. Sir Mayor, you've changed too quickly. Chang Gue said coldly, I'll kill you with one slap. At most, I'll retire and return to my hometown. Chu Li shook his head and fist saluted. If that's the case, I'll take my leave. Scram! Chang Gue slammed the armrest of his chair. You're not allowed to take another step into the town defense prefecture. Chu Li shook his head calmly and turned to leave. Bang! Chang Gue slammed his palm on the table and it shattered into a pile. He glared at Chu Li's back and gritted his teeth. He had a strong urge to kill Chu Li and get rid of this scourge. A trace of rationality stopped him. Chu Li was a person from the High Duke's public house. It would be fine if he used his authority to bully him and no one would say anything. Instead, they would praise him for his courage. However, if he killed Chu Li, there would be endless trouble. The High Duke's public house would not let him go. Changda, he shouted, all the protectors in the residence are to protect an heir. An heir is not allowed to go out for the next few days. Yes, old servant Changda responded. Chang Gue gritted his teeth and his eyes were spitting fire. How dare he play this game with him? He wanted to see who would win. This was his territory. He took a deep breath and said, Send the secret guards to deal with Chu Li, break his limbs. Chapter 996. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li returned to the small courtyard of the inn as dusk arrived and the lanterns were lit. Xiao Qi, Lu Yurong, and Fa Yuan were waiting. When they saw him return safely, they smiled at him. Did you change your job? Lu Yurong asked. Chu Li shook his head. It's not that easy. This mayor won't give up until he hits a brick wall. Looks like I'll have to do it again. Lu Yurong smiled. Remember, I owe him another favor. Chu Li said, Forget it, I don't dare to use you. Oh, Lu Yurong glanced at him. Are you going to let Third Lady do it alone? Third Lady Xiao and I work together quite well. Isn't that right, Third Lady Xiao? Xiao Qi ignored her provocation and asked calmly, Chu Li, what do you want to do? Chu Li smiled. You don't have to worry about this. I'll take care of it. Lu Yurong looked at him curiously. He must be on high alert now. It's impossible to kidnap that little guy without him knowing. The protectors in the town defense prefecture are weak. I suggest we just barge in and teach him a lesson. Otherwise, he'll be too arrogant and use you as a ladder. Xiao Qi nodded. She also thought that this was a good idea, using force to break through tricks. No matter how many tricks he had, it would be futile if he was not strong enough. As long as Chang Gui was aware of this, he would not provoke Chu Li and humiliate him. She hated Chang Gui and saw through his evil intentions. She wanted to teach him a lesson and let him know that some people could not be humiliated or used. Fa Yuan said, "I'll do it." Even if Chu Li's martial arts was crippled, he was still a master who was on par or even better than him. He could not bear to see Chu Li being humiliated. Chu Li smiled. "This time, you don't have to do anything. Using force won't help much. What do you want?" Lu Yurong scoffed. "So secretive. Let me keep you in suspense." Chu Li smiled. "Just wait for the news tomorrow." Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and shook his head. The morning sun was still shining, but the world was still dark. There was only a ray of light in the sky. Chang Gui's grandson, Chang'in, was a cute little boy who was sleeping soundly on the bed. His mother, Xiaoyun, held him in her arms. She was afraid of losing him, so she hugged him tightly, afraid that the child would be gone if she let go. For grandmasters stood guard outside the door, one on the roof and the other three at the corner of the wall, ready to defend against any sneak attacks. They were motionless and in a state of half awake and half asleep. Their senses were the sharpest. With the sound of footsteps, Chang Gui slowly walked into the courtyard. "Master." The four grandmasters' closed fists saluted. They were Changde and the other three. Chang Gui waved his hand. "Any movement?" "No." The four of them shook their heads. Changde said, "We've been keeping watch all night, but there's been no movement." "It looks like they've retreated." "Yes." Chang Gui nodded. His original prediction was that Chu Li would send someone to attack them last night, but now it seemed that he was wrong. He did not know what Chu Li was up to. Xiaoyun woke up when she heard the voice. She called out, "Father." "Xiaoyun, didn't her sleep well?" "I didn't wake up for the whole night." "Oh, that's good." "Ah." Xiaoyun suddenly screamed. Chang Gui could not care less about the boundaries between men and women. He rushed into the house and saw Xiaoyun staring at a pair of silver bracelets on the table. "Xiaoyun, what's wrong?" Chang Gui asked. The little boy, Chang'in, rubbed his eyes and sat up. He pouted and wanted to cry. "Mother!" Xiaoyun's face was pale as she stared at the silver bracelets. "Xiaoyun!" Chang Gui shouted. Xiaoyun quickly said, "Father, someone came last night." "Hmm?" Chang Gui looked at her in confusion. Could it be this silver bracelet? "When I was knocked out yesterday, the silver bracelet disappeared." Xiaoyun pursed her red lips and said with a trembling voice, "Before I went to sleep last night, I was regretting that this silver bracelet was given to me by an Er's father. It's passed down from his mother-in-law. It's such a pity to lose it, but now it's here." Chang Gui's face darkened. "You're saying that someone came last night?" "Yes." Xiaoyun nodded. Chang Gui walked to the table and picked up the silver bracelet. Below the bracelet was a flower petal with dew on it. His face darkened. "Chu Li." "Father, was it Chu Li?" Xiaoyun asked. Chang Gui waved his hand. "Don't worry about it. Don't bring it out today." "Yes." Xiaoyun nodded. Even if he wanted her to bring an heir out to play, she would not go. It was too dangerous outside. Who knew if an heir would be sent back safely the next time they made a move? Chang Gui went to the bed and patted Chang'in's head. "Grandfather, an heir wants to ride a horse." Chang'in extended his hands. Chang Gui chuckled. "After dinner, I'll bring an heir to ride a horse, okay?" "Okay." Chang'in nodded obediently. Chang Gui patted his head happily and left the house. He sat in the main hall with a gloomy face. He frowned as he stroked his beard. Chang'e asked softly, "Master, are we going to deal with Chu Li?" "Forget it." Chang Gui scoffed. "This young man is indeed famous. He does have some strange abilities. Go and inform him that he's been transferred to the town defense prefecture. There's no need for him to come." "Yes," Chang'e replied and asked softly, "Are we going to let this young man go?" "We'll deal with him after his companions leave." Chang Gui sneered. "I don't believe I can't deal with someone who doesn't know any martial arts." "Yes." Chang'e laughed. "Master is wise. A man can advance and retreat at the same time. Don't flatter me. Go and inform him." Chang Gui scoffed. Chang to Fist saluted and left. Chu Li Fist saluted as he watched Chang to leave the courtyard. Lu Yurong looked at him in shock. However, Shao-Chi knew that he had used a divine power. His god's limbs could reach the boy's house in an instant. He put down the silver bracelet and disappeared without a sound. It was shocking enough. Since he could put down the silver bracelet without a sound, it would be easy for him to put down other things. He could even kill someone. This would make Chang Gui understand that his grandson's life was in Chu Li's hands. Lu Yurong smiled. It's a pity that we didn't get to see the show. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. He finally managed to save his face. Fa Yuan felt uncomfortable when he thought of Chu Li sweeping the streets. Chu Li said, "He's just staying put for now. Once you leave, he'll play tricks again. Next time, we must teach him a lesson so that he won't dare to do anything bad again. Then we'll leave today. Let him make his move." Lu Yurong smiled. She turned to look at Shao-Chi. "What about Third Lady Shao?" Shao-Chi said, "I'll leave in a few days." "Oh, you're together already?" Lu Yurong smiled faintly. "Third Lady Shao, aren't you too unreserved? No matter what, you're still the third lady of the public house. You're as pure as ice and as clean as jade." Chu Li snapped, "Don't talk so much." Lu Yurong said, "Chu Li, you've gained a blessing in disguise. You used Third Lady Zhao's kindness and sympathy to keep her." Chu Li scoffed. "Do you want to stay too? Do you dare to keep me?" Lu Yurong chuckled and raised her eyebrows flirtatiously. Shao-Chi frowned at her. Chu Li hurriedly waved his hand. "Have a safe trip. I won't send you off." Fa Yuan pressed his palms together. "Then we'll bid farewell. We'll visit you again in a few days. Go, go." Chu Li waved his hand. Chapter 997. After the two left, only Chu Li and Shao-Chi were left in the courtyard. Shao-Chi glanced at him. Chu Li smiled. "Lady Shao, you should leave too. I can handle it alone. What if someone attacks you? How are you going to deal with it? You can't just run away." Shao-Chi said. Chu Li nodded. "That's true. Thank you, Lady Shao. I'll buy 2 residences tomorrow." Shao-Chi said, "One for each of us." Chu Li looked at her helplessly. Shao-Chi said, "We still have to keep our distance. We can't stay in the same house." Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. "Lady Shao, is your regal sword scripture strong enough?" It seemed like Shao-Chi had seen through his intentions. The pavilion closest to the water enjoyed the moonlight first. As time passed, the two of them lived alone in this small town. As time passed, even the strictest of their hearts would not be able to keep up. "Yes," Shao-Chi said, "I'll be in isolated cultivation soon." Chu Li said, "That's good too." One house would be used as a retreat place, and the other house would be used for daily use, he thought to himself. Shao-Chi went with him to the broker house in the town and found 2 connected residences. They were 2 old residences by the river in the east of the town. There was moss on the stone steps, and grass grew between the bluestones in the courtyard. Chu Li and Shao-Chi were satisfied. As soon as they stepped out of the door, they saw a clear river. They could wash clothes by the river and sail on the river. The weeping willows by the river were graceful and swaying with the wind like mist. Behind the residences was a shop which they bought along with the shop. The shop used to sell grain, but it was now closed. The shop was located on the side of the central street and was facing the bustling street. Although this small city was not as prosperous as the Immortals' capital, it was not inferior to Qingyun City. In fact, it was even better than Qingyun City. After all, most of the people who were sent here were nobles. Their pockets were full of money, and they spent lavishly. Therefore, they were able to attract skilled craftsmen from all over the world to come here. There were many people with special talents in this small city. Chu Li did not plan to open a shop. He was not short of money and did not want to be distracted by these mundane things. Money would always bring trouble. There was no one who could earn money without putting in effort. There would always be various things to deal with. He planned to study the white tiger power carefully. In the evening, as the sun was setting, the two of them left their newly bought residence to have dinner. As a third lady of the High Duke's public house, how could Shao-Chi cook? The two of them went to a small town's restaurant for dinner. The two of them sat at a table by the window, chatting as they ate. Will he just let it go? Seo Chi took a sip of the wine. She had already taken off her white veil, revealing her pure and peerlessly beautiful appearance, which attracted the prying gazes of the surrounding people. Seo Chi did not care at all. She just stared at Chu Li with a frown. Forcing him to admit defeat will eventually lead to hidden dangers. I'm just afraid that he will plot against us at the crucial moment. It's not the right time yet. Chu Li smiled. Let's slow down and deal with him slowly. If we don't crush him to death, he'll jump out sooner or later. It's good that you understand. Xiao Qi was finally relieved. She was afraid that Chu Li would not care about Chang Gui at all. Would it not mean that these despicable people would often spoil things, especially when Chu Li was at such a crucial moment? If Chang Gui were to risk offending him and participate in the book, the consequences would be unpredictable. Chu Li was suddenly stunned. He called out, "Commander Su." The middle-aged man who was slowly walking up the stairs looked up and smiled when he saw Chu Li. It was Su Huanda. He was dressed in a grayish-brown robe and looked like he was in dire straits. Chu Li stood up and fist saluted. Su Huanda approached him and sighed. "I didn't expect us to be brothers in hardship. You're here too." "I'm here to accompany Commander Su." Chu Li smiled. Xiao Qi only nodded without saying much. Su Huanda asked, "Why were you sent here?" Chu Li looked around and smiled. "I told King Ping who the mastermind was." Su Huanda's expression changed. He pondered for a moment and shook his head. "Why did you do that? You're asking for trouble." "There's nothing I can do. I can't change my temper," Chu Li said. "Commander Su can be reinstated, right? It'll be difficult." Su Huanda shook his head. "The position has already been taken. He's favored by the Emperor, so the Emperor will trust him more and won't immediately remove his position as deputy commander. As for me, the Emperor doesn't mind if I stay a few more years." Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. "Then how did you get injured, Commander Su?" He could tell at a glance that Su Huanda was heavily injured, but he pretended to be fine on the surface. There was a trace of weak inner strength circulating in his internal organs. It was constantly eroding his internal organs, and his body was constantly deteriorating. At this rate, he would probably be bettered in less than 2 days. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. When he was in the Secret Guardians Hall, he always had a sullen expression on his face, as if he was wearing an iron mask. There was no other expression on his face, and he did not bat an eyelid about anything. It was as if he was numb and indifferent. However, at this moment, he had a sorrowful look on his face. The Secret Guardians Hall has offended too many people. How dare they? Chu Li's expression darkened. Su Huanda said, "Forget it. They're either from the outer mausoleum or the inner mausoleum. They're unscrupulous. You can't do anything to them. Besides, your martial arts has been crippled." Chu Li nodded slowly. "All right, you must be careful. You're from the Secret Guardians Hall too." Su Huanda said, "I'm afraid it'll be difficult for you to move around in the town." "It's okay. I'm not going on an errand." Chu Li smiled. "The Royal Highnesses pleaded for me, and I got an errand. I don't have to go out. I can just stay at home and cultivate. I'm afraid the disaster will fall from the sky while you're at home." Su Huanda shook his head and smiled. "I'm not that lucky. I don't dare to cripple my martial arts like you." He knew that he could not enter the Imperial Mausoleum if his martial arts were crippled. If he could live outside the town, it would be easier for the Emperor to summon him back. However, his identity determined that he could not take this path. If he did not have martial arts, the Emperor would not use him, and it would be impossible for him to summon him back to Fairy's capital. Moreover, he understood his situation. He knew that he would not have a good time in the Imperial Mausoleum. He would be ostracized and suppressed without anyone to rely on. Without his martial arts, he would be like a fish on a chopping board. It would be miserable. Chu Li nodded and smiled. "If I don't enter the outer mausoleum, there won't be so many grudges, right? The people from the outer mausoleum can come out." Su Huanda shook his head. "They'll definitely cause you trouble. I'm afraid you won't be able to hide. I still have Lady Xiao to protect me." Chu Li smiled. Su Huanda shook his head. "According to the rules of adjacent town, non-family members can only stay here for a maximum of 7 days." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Once Lady Xiao leaves after 7 days, who will protect you? Su Huanda asked. Only family members? Chu Li frowned. Xiao Qi frowned too. Su Huanda said, if Lady Xiao is your wife, she can stay. However, she's not, so she can only leave after 7 days. No one could defy this rule. What other relationships can I stay here with? Xiao Qi asked. Su Huanda said, siblings can only be biological relatives. Those who are not related by blood can only be husband and wife. Chu Li could not help but laugh. Looks like I'll have to live alone. Su Huanda said, now that your martial arts have been crippled, don't think that they'll let you go according to the rules of the martial arts world. Instead, they'll make things worse. Chapter 998. Chu Li smiled. Don't worry about it. I'll take it one day at a time. Maybe the Emperor will summon me back in 7 days. Impossible. Su Huanda said, I know the Emperor's temper. Even if he's wrong, he'll be wrong to the end. He won't give up halfway and won't allow his dignity to be damaged. He'll regret it even if he's wrong. If that's the case, will he stay here forever? Xiao Qi asked with a frown. Su Huanda said, even if someone pleads for him, based on the Emperor's temper, he won't change his mind for at least a year or so. Fortunately, it's only a year or so. Chu Li smiled. If he doesn't change his mind, I'll really have to stay here. His desire to become an enlightened master was getting more and more urgent. He was suppressed everywhere and could not move freely. He felt that he was ashamed of his rebirth. Su Huanda said, of course. Chu Li, I notice that your thoughts are dangerous. You're being disrespectful to the Emperor. If I'm this respectful, it'll be difficult for me to become an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head. Chu Li, although you're a genius, and even better than Fa Yuan from the Tempest Temple, it'll be extremely difficult for you to become an enlightened master. It's best to give up on this idea, or you'll be asking for trouble. Su Huanda shook his head and stood up. Let's go. We'll find a quiet place. Chu Li nodded. Let's go to my new residence. My place. Su Huanda shook his head. Chu Li agreed and followed Su Huanda down the restaurant. After a few turns, they entered a narrow alley and arrived at an ordinary house. The house here was very different from the one Chu Li bought. It was narrow and low. Commander Su? Chu Li looked around. Su Huanda shook his head. I can pay, but it's not necessary. Moreover, it's not a good idea. It shouldn't be difficult to buy a better residence, right? A good residence is too eye-catching. Without enough power, you won't be able to protect it. Su Huanda shook his head. Even if you buy it, it'll be occupied. Is the security in the city so bad? Chu Li frowned. Su Huanda said, it's fine on the surface, but don't forget that there are martial arts figures here. Although the mayor is a master, he can't control every corner of the city. Since ancient time, it's always been black and white. Then who has the final say underground? Chu Li asked. Su Huanda pushed open the door and entered. There was only a flower bed in the small courtyard inside. Beside the flower bed was a wooden table. It had been weathered by the wind and rain, mottled and worn out. The three of them sat at the wooden table. Su Huanda brewed some tea and sighed. The underground master was originally a Chiliarch. His surname was Su, and his given name was Guangyang. He was once a general of the southern border, and he often fought against the Zheng dynasty. Later on, he was punished and sent here. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Su Huanda continued. This Su Guangyang was also sent here after his martial arts were crippled, just like you. However, his martial arts were crippled by the imperial court and then thrown here. I didn't expect him to recover his martial arts so quickly and unite his 4 subordinates to become the boss in the city. No one dares to offend him. Does His Majesty know? I know. Interesting. Chu Li shook his head. He was brought down by the Secret Guardians Hall back then. Su Huanda shook his head. He hates the Secret Guardians Hall to the core. Co. Chi frowned even more. Then Commander Su can't defeat him? Chu Li asked. Su Huanda shook his head. His cultivation level is extremely high. I'm no match for him. Moreover, his 4 subordinates are top-notch masters. Chu Li said, looks like the days from now on won't be peaceful. The underworld exists everywhere. This place is much more dangerous than the fairies' capital. Su Huanda shook his head and smiled bitterly. Back then, I only did things on impulse. I was confident that I had the Emperor's protection, so I offended people. I didn't expect this day to come. He sighed again. Fate was unpredictable. He never thought that he would have such a day. He could not hide his disappointment. Initially, he thought that he would be valued by the Emperor if he stayed true to his heart. He did not expect the Emperor to abandon him in a flash. He was in such a difficult situation. No matter how strong his martial arts was, he could only fight alone. He was far from Su Guangyang's group. Chu Li smiled. Commander Su, you don't have to worry after today. With Lady Co around, dealing with those people will be a piece of cake. Co Chi glared at him. Su Huanda smiled bitterly. No matter how powerful Lady Co is, she can only stay for 7 days. Besides, she might not be able to defeat Su Guangyang. I'll just try, Chu Li said. Lady Co, what do you think? Co Chi nodded. Chu Li and Su Huanda then talked about the situation in the town and Su Huanda's assignment. Su Huanda's assignment was to patrol the outer mausoleum, so he was quite free. However, the people from the outer mausoleum could not stay in the mausoleum. They had to enter the imperial mausoleum to take turns on duty. When the time was up, they had to come out and return to live in the town. Only the people from the inner mausoleum could live in the mausoleum. The protectors from the inner mausoleum can also enter the town, Su Huanda said. Those people are all top-notch masters. It's best if you don't offend them. They've been staying here all their lives and are fearless. Many of them have mental problems and are like lunatics. Chu Li slowly nodded. Co Chi sat aside and listened without saying anything. When the sky turned dark, Chu Li and Co Chi left the Su residence. Before they left, Chu Li gave Su Huanda a spirit pill to help him recover from his injuries. The two strolled along the river. The weeping willow swayed gently with the night breeze. Strings of lanterns were hung on both sides of the river, illuminating the houses on both sides. The river swayed gently and sparkled. On the river, a small boat floated along with the waves like a leaf on the river. Some scholars sat in the boat and recited poems while the sound of bamboo fluttered from the boat. The deputy commander of the Secret Guardians Hall has fallen to such a state. Co Chi gently shook her head. Chu Li said, it's because he was abandoned by the Emperor. Co Chi's bright eyes looked at him. Chu Li smiled. Lady Co, don't worry. I want it up like this. If I leave, you won't be able to use your martial arts. If you're surrounded, how will you escape? Divine power is a big secret. It can't be leaked. It's nothing to get beaten up, Chu Li said. Co Chi gently shook her head and bit her lower lip. Small boats floated along the river. A beautiful song could be heard, melodious and pleasing to the ear. The two walked side by the river. They could hear the sound of their footsteps. Under the lanterns, Co Chi's face was faintly discernible. The two unknowingly walked back to the residence and suddenly stopped. The main door was shattered on the ground as if it was slashed by a knife. The two walked in and saw that the parterre in the front yard was in a mess. Broken flowers and leaves were scattered everywhere. It was completely destroyed. The stone table next to the parterre was shattered and turned into a pile of stones. The stone stool was overturned and there were knife marks everywhere. It could no longer be used. Chu Li took a deep breath and scoffed. Looks like we don't have to go to them. They came to us first. Co Chi's bright eyes flashed coldly. She calmly said, their skills are indeed extraordinary. Through these knife and palm marks, she speculated that these people's cultivation level was indeed grandmasters. Moreover, their cultivation level was high. The two went back into the house. All the furniture was broken. Not a single one was intact. The bed was split into several pieces, and the bedding was torn. Silk and cotton were like snow. They were scattered all over the ground. Ruthless, Chu Li said coldly. Co Chi said, he deliberately provoked us, right? Chapter 999. P.S. Update complete. I'm really sorry, I'm not in the best condition. I need to adjust. The two of them went to the residence next door. It was also completely destroyed. Not a single part of it was intact. The entire residence was uninhabitable. Chu Li and Xiao Qi had no choice but to find an inn to stay for the night. The next morning, they returned to the residence. As soon as they entered the door, they saw three middle-aged men sitting on the steps of the main hall. They were waiting impatiently with flowers in their hands. In front of each of them was a pile of broken petals. The man sitting in the middle had thick eyebrows and big eyes. When his eyes opened and closed, they emitted a cold glint that was fierce and terrifying. Just by looking at the dense, baleful aura around him, one could tell that he had been on the battlefield and had killed many people. The middle-aged men on both sides had mediocre appearances that were easily forgotten. They were tall and sturdy, and they were both grandmasters. They had already stood up and were staring at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi was dressed in a white tunic with a white veil covering her face. However, her temperament was like that of fairy. Her cold eyes looked at them calmly, as if she was an otherworldly fairy. They could not help but stare at her. "Who are you?" Chu Li asked. "You're Chu Li?" The middle-aged man said, "I'm Jin Wu." Chu Li nodded. "I'm Chu Li. What can I do for you?" Chu Li, the head chief of King An's imperial residence? Jin Wu asked. Chu Li nodded. Jin Wu said coldly, "The centurion of the secret guardians hall?" Chu Li pointed at his surroundings. "Did you guys do this?" Jin Wu answered, "Yes." Chu Li turned to look at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi moved the long sword at her waist, and a sword light flashed. It was so fast that the sword could not be seen. Jin Wu threw a punch, but the tip of the sword had already pierced through his dantian. His inner energy poured out of his dantian like a flood, and the power in his fist disappeared. The three of them held their stomachs and stared at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi had been accumulating her energy for this moment. She wanted to vent her frustrations from last night. She gently shook the long sword and returned it to its sheath. The white veil covered her face, so her face could not be seen. Her eyes were still cold, and she stood beside Chu Li like a white jade statue. Chu Li nodded. "Now we can talk nicely. Tell me, why did you destroy our residence?" Jin Wu glared at Chu Li viciously. He bit his lip so hard that it bled. Fine, fine," Chu Li said faintly. "It seems like you don't want to talk about it. Then don't. Get lost, or else I'll break your limbs and throw you out." "You," Jin Wu glared at him. "This is adjacent town, not Fairy's capital. So what if it's adjacent town? It's not your place to be tyrannical," Chu Li said coldly. "If you have the guts, ask Huang Feiyun to come." The underground master of adjacent city was Huang Feiyun. This Jin Wu was one of the 4 great Vajras. "Fine, fine," Jin Wu gritted his teeth. "I want to see what will happen to you." Chu Li waved his hand. "Get lost." Jin Wu and the other 2 middle-aged men staggered out. Chu Li scoffed, turned his head, and smiled. "My lady, you did a great job," Xiao Qi replied. "I might not be able to defeat Huang Feiyun." Chu Li laughed. "My lady, if you can't defeat Huang Feiyun, then you'll have wasted your time cultivating the regal sword scripture." Xiao Qi shook her head. "You can't underestimate the heroes of the world. He must have his own uniqueness to be able to dominate adjacent town." "Then let's go and take a look," Chu Li muttered. Xiao Qi nodded. She placed her hand on Chu Li's shoulder and glided along with him. The two of them did not travel fast, so they followed Jin Wu and the other 2 from afar. Without their martial arts, they had lost their keen senses. In their daze, they did not notice Chu Li and Xiao Qi. Chu Li and Xiao Qi chatted as they stared at them. "How far do you want to go?" Xiao Qi asked. "To replace them," Chu Li replied. "It'll be very difficult," Xiao Qi said softly. "Your identity is inherently disadvantageous. The Secret Guardians Hall is unpopular and everyone has the right to kill you. Besides, you're from the High Duke's public house, so the people might not be convinced. If they're not convinced, I'll beat them into submission," Chu Li scoffed. "Otherwise, I won't be able to live peacefully and cultivate." "That's true," Xiao Qi nodded. The tree longed for peace, but the wind would not stop. Since they had just arrived, if they could not gain a foothold, there would be endless troubles. Chu Li's identity attracted too much hatred, so if he wanted to live peacefully, he had to subdue the people around him. Jin Wu and the other two stumbled to a restaurant and went up to the third floor before they came to a young man. The young man wore a sapphire blue robe and was sitting at a table by the window in the restaurant where Chu Li and Xiao Qi had their meal last night. He held a glass of wine and sipped it as he pondered with a serious expression. He was the only one on the spacious floor. It was empty, but the first and second floors were bustling. Boss Huang, Jin Wu, and the two middle-aged men went forward and fists saluted with a gloomy expression. Help us. Huang Feiyun turned to look at the three of them and asked, What's wrong now? Our martial arts have been crippled by Chu Li. Jin Wu gritted his teeth. We can only ask Boss Huang to help us. Third Lady Xiao, Huang Feiyun asked. Chu Li's martial arts have been crippled, so he could not fight, so Xiao Qi was the only one who could. Yes, Jin Wu scoffed. Third Lady Xiao's martial arts are more powerful than the rumors say. She defeated us in one move. That's Third Lady Xiao. Huang Feiyun nodded and smiled. I've admired such a powerful beauty for a long time. Now that she's finally here in adjacent town, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Boss Huang, Jin Wu yelled in dissatisfaction. Then, he remembered that he was no longer the valiant general he used to be. He had lost his martial arts and was now a cripple. Jin Wu, what do you think would happen if she becomes my wife? Huang Feiyun smiled. I've been fighting on the battlefield for the past 30 years. Now that I've come to adjacent town, I'm not interested in those ordinary women. Now, I've finally met such a wonderful person. Boss Huang, although you've been a Chiliarch, Third Lady Zhao's standards must be very high. I'm afraid she won't like you. Jin Wu quickly said. It's okay if she doesn't like me. Huang Feiyun shook his head. Let's get married first. What's done can't be undone. She's the third lady of the High Duke's public house. Jin Wu said. If we offend the High Duke's public house, we won't even know how we'll die. We're already a family. Why would she go against me? Huang Feiyun chuckled. As long as we have the High Duke's public house, it'll be easy for us to leave this damned place. If it's that easy, Chu Li wouldn't have come here. Jin Wu quickly said. Huang Feiyun shook his head. Chu Li's different. He's offended the emperor. No one can save him, not even the High Duke's public house. As long as I kill him, Third Lady Xiao will belong to me. Huh. He laughed and clenched his fists. That's why Chu Li must die. But he's known by the emperor. Who knows if the emperor will put him in an important position? Jin Wu hesitated. He was filled with hatred. Of course, he wanted Chu Li and Xiao Qi dead. Chu Li's death would not be enough to vent his hatred. Xiao Qi should die with him. Young fellow, Huang Feiyun pointed at him. You're so narrow-minded. Don't worry, I'll find a way to get you some spirit pills to help you recover your martial arts. Really? Jin Wu was overjoyed. Huang Feiyun said, although it won't be easy, it's not impossible. If I can become the son-in-law of the High Duke's public house, I'll be more confident. Then hurry up and kill Chu Li, Jin Wu said. Chapter 1000. As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly laughed out loud. I'm sure Third Lady Xiao has arrived. Jin Wu was stunned. His face darkened as he quickly turned to look, but there was no one around. Big Boss Huang. He turned around and smiled. Don't scare me, you idiot. How dare you swagger back after crippling your martial arts? With Third Lady Zhao's intelligence, how can she not know that she can find me if she follows you? She doesn't have the guts, does she? Huang Feiyun shook his head. Third Lady Xiao is a heroine, so she has the guts. Isn't that right, Third Lady Xiao? The surroundings were empty. No one could be seen. Huang Feiyun chuckled. Third Lady Xiao, since you're here, why don't you show yourself and let me have a look? Still, no one answered. Huang Feiyun laughed out loud. It said that knowing someone by reputation is not as good as seeing them in person. I've always admired your beauty, so let me fulfill my wish today. I'll spare Chu Li's life. Still, no one answered. Jin Wu said, Big Boss Huang, Third Lady Xiao might dare to come and have a look if she's alone, but she still has a cripple to take care of. What do you know? Huang Feiyun glared at him. Jin Wu shrunk his neck. Big Boss Huang's gaze was not right. Huang Feiyin smiled. Since Third Lady Xiao is reluctant to meet me, I'll have to take the initiative. Adjacent town is so small, so it'll be easy to meet her. Isn't that right, Third Lady Xiao? Chu Li's laughter suddenly rang out. There's really someone so daring. No wonder he was sent here. In a flash, Chu Li and Xiao Qi appeared on the third floor and stood in front of the four people. Huang Feiyun's expression remained unchanged as he smiled. However, he was secretly shocked because he did not sense them approaching. Their sudden appearance was worthy of their reputation for their excellent light body technique. This was Chu Li's god's limbs, but it looked like Xiao Qi's light body technique. Huang Feiyun stared at Xiao Qi greedily without blinking. Xiao Qi's face was covered with a white veil, revealing only her eyes. They were clear and cold like autumn water, so intoxicating that he could not help but want to hold her in his arms and possess her eyes forever. Xiao Qi's bright eyes were calm as she looked on indifferently. She had seen this kind of greedy and intense gaze many times. Compared to the others, Huang Feiyun was more direct, bolder, and more intense, but he could not disturb her. Chu Li could shake her state of mind, but the others could not. It was like a gentle breeze that brushed past her face. Chu Li said, Huang Feiyun, you really aren't suited to be a centurion. An incompetent general will exhaust an entire army. You'll only let your soldiers die in vain. Shut up, you trash. Huang Feiyun turned his head abruptly and glared at Chu Li fiercely. He roared like a ferocious wolf, pouncing on its prey. Chu Li smiled nonchalantly. There are still 6 masters lying in ambush, right? You still want to pretend to be a pig to eat the tiger? Let's call them up at the same time so that we can deal with them at once. Huang Feiyun's face darkened, and he said coldly, You do have some skills. I have underestimated you. I've overestimated you. Chu Li shook his head and said, You don't know how to hide your desires and are driven by your instincts. What a joke, hee. Huang Feiyun licked his lips, and his expression became even more ferocious and terrifying. A murderous aura emanated from him. Just a little trick, and you obediently fell into the trap. How dare you talk big? Just a little trick? Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Why go through so much trouble? First, you threw stones to test our strength, but in the end, you lost your men. If all of you ambushed us in our residence and attacked us together, we would have been crippled no matter how strong we were. He was trying to sow discord and attack Huang Feiyun. It was important to throw stones to test the waters. Otherwise, if they rashly attacked without knowing their strength, they might be wiped out. The merciful did not command an army, and this was the way of using troops. No matter how much one loved his soldiers, once they were on the battlefield, they would be used as chess pieces. Huang Feiyun had asked Jin Wu and the others to test the waters. First, he wanted to find out Chu Li and Xiao Qi's methods, infuriate them, and make them lose their minds. Second, he wanted to make them think that their masters were the same as Jin Wu and the other 2. In reality, Jin Wu and the other 2 were the weakest in martial arts, and the other 6 were far better than Jin Wu. Huang Feiyun was arrogant, but he was also somewhat scheming. After all, he was trained on the battlefield. Nonetheless, in the face of strength, all of these were like castles in the air and could not withstand a single blow. Xiao Qi's regal sword scripture was rare in the world, and she was superior to them. Huang Feiyun chuckled coldly. Don't be so stubborn. I like to see what you're capable of. Third Lady Xiao, please excuse me. Come out, he shouted. 6 silhouettes floated down like cotton. 4 of them entered through the window, and 2 of them floated up from a staircase. They sealed off the path from top to bottom and formed an encirclement. 4 old men and 2 middle-aged men stared coldly at Xiao Qi. Chu Li said, I've recruited many masters. Heh, these are all masters from our military. Huang Feiyun said proudly. Third Lady Xiao, please advise us. Go. He waved his hand, and the 6 men charged forward to attack Chu Li. Chu Li took a diagonal step and cleverly avoided 4 swords, 1 fist force, and 1 palm energy. Huang Feiyun frowned. This step seemed like a coincidence, and he easily dodged them, but it was ingenious. Huang Feiyun could not use this step, so it was obvious that Head Chief Chu had an excellent step technique. He must force him to reveal it. Xiao Qi's sword flashed like lightning. Instead of saving Chu Li, she took a diagonal step and pierced an old man's chest with ease and ease. Huang Feiyun's expression changed slightly, and his eyes flickered. He looked between Chu Li and Xiao Qi, and finally pounced on Xiao Qi. Chu Li was not a threat, and Xiao Qi's swordsmanship was far stronger than what was rumored. Her sword was swift, and her body movement technique was swift, so it was impossible to defend against her. Huang Feiyun unsheathed the long saber at his waist and slashed at Xiao Qi in a swift and ruthless manner. Chu Li gently swung his arm. TSS. A cold light flashed, and a whistling sound was heard. An old man turned his head and stared at Chu Li in disbelief. A flying blade pierced through his back and exited his chest, shooting toward another middle-aged master. While the middle-aged master was dodging, Xiao Qi slipped and evaded Huang Feiyun's blade force. She appeared in front of the middle-aged master and pierced his dantian with her sword, instantly crippling his martial arts. Damn it, Huang Feiyun roared. Not only did he fail to suppress Xiao Qi, but she had also injured two people, and the culprit was Chu Li, whose martial arts had been crippled. He felt that he had been fooled, and he was furious. Although he was arrogant, he was cautious. After Chu Li appeared, he carefully examined Chu Li and confirmed that he did not have any aura of inner energy on him. There were no signs of a martial artist, and his eyes were dull. How could he suddenly shoot a flying blade? Chu Li smiled and said, "My martial arts recover very quickly too." Damn it! Huang Feiyun turned and pounced at Chu Li, and his blade formed an arc of light that fell toward Chu Li. Chu Li took a diagonal step and easily dodged it. He had combined the nature restoration manifestation and the omniscient mirror to predict the momentum of his blade. Huang Feiyun gritted his teeth and evaded it. He did not believe that Chu Li could dodge it. After all, Chu Li's martial arts had been crippled. However, Chu Li easily dodged it. His body was strong now. First, he had the divine light body and the heavenly demonic body, and then he had consumed several wind speed pills and giant spirit pills. Even without inner energy, his speed and strength were not much different from a grandmaster. Chapter 1001. Huang Feiyun was enraged, and his attacks became faster and faster. Xiao Qi suddenly pointed her finger. Ding! Huang Feiyun's long blade stopped, and the light finger force hit the long blade like a boulder. Chu Li swung his arm the moment Xiao Qi pointed her finger. They moved almost at the same time, as he was very confident in Xiao Qi's martial arts. TSS. A cold light flashed, and the flying blade pierced through Huang Feiyun's right chest without any resistance. Blood spurted out, and it shot into the pillar next to him. Huang Feiyun widened his eyes in disbelief. Chu Li smiled. My martial arts has been crippled, but I can still throw two blades. How'd it feel? I'll kill you. Huang Feiyun roared in frustration. He did not expect to be defeated by Chu Li, whom he had always looked down on. It was difficult for him to accept. His roar was hoarse and weak, as if all his strength had been taken away by the flying blade. His right chest seemed to be leaking, and he did not even have the strength to speak. If I were you, I'd quickly heal myself. Chu Li took a step back and shook his head. The four masters around Huang Feiyun were also in disbelief. Chu Li's body did not have any inner energy flow, not even when he used the flying blade. It was as if the blade was purely made with his strength, which was unbelievable. While the other four were shaken, Xiao Qi suddenly sped up and crippled the four of them with one sword strike. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction and clapped his hands. It's finally settled. Huang Feiyun, clean up our residence. You have 2 days, or else I won't just cripple your martial arts next time. I'll cripple your limbs too. All right. Huang Feiyun's eyes were bloodshot as he said fiercely. Xiao Qi approached him and pierced his dantian with her sword. You. Huang Feiyun glared at Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi glanced at him, but did not say a word. Chu Li said, Huang Feiyun, I heard that your martial arts recovered very quickly. Do you have some secret skill? Huang Feiyun sneered. Why? Do you want to learn? Chu Li nodded. If you hand over the secret skill, I'll spare you. Otherwise, we'll look for you in a few days and cripple your martial arts. We'll see if your secret skill recovers faster or we cripple you faster. Dream on. Huang Feiyun sneered. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Why bother? Shao Qi arrived in front of an old man. With a flash of her sword, the old man's left arm hung limply as the tendons in his hand were severed. Ah! The old man roared. Shao Qi glanced at him. She could see through people's hearts and knew that these fellows weren't good people. They had bullied others and taken advantage of women, so she definitely couldn't let them off so easily. She went to another old man, and with a flash of her sword, the tendon of his left hand was severed again. She then walked toward another old man. Ignoring the old man's cowering, she once again broke the tendons in his left hand. Her footsteps did not stop as she walked toward the last old man. Wait, I'll speak, Huang Feiyun hurriedly said. This move was too vicious. Even if he could keep the secret skill in the end, he would be alienated and become a loner. Moreover, he might not be able to endure it. Seeing how ruthless third Miss Xiao was, she would not be soft-hearted in dealing with him. Chu Li said, A wise man submits to circumstances. Why didn't you say so earlier? Why do you have to make everyone suffer like this? I obtained the secret skill by accident. It's hidden in my house, Huang Feiyun said. Chu Li nodded. What are you waiting for? Let's go. Huang Feiyun scoffed. Let it go first. Otherwise, I won't hand it over even if you kill me. Chu Li shook his head. What's the point of playing these little tricks? Let them report to the people you've secretly trained, right? Not only did Huang Feiyun have Jin Wu and the other 8 masters, but he also had 6 other masters in the dark. He befriended these masters through the secret skill that allowed him to recover his martial arts. They usually had nothing to do with him, nor did they contact him. They would only help during crucial moments. These masters were his backup plan to turn the tables. Usually, his opponents would relax after they had won, giving them an opportunity to take advantage of. Huang Feiyun's heart trembled, but he pretended to be stubborn and sneered. Are you afraid? He seemed to be following Chu Li's words, putting on a brave front, but cowardly inside. Chu Li smiled. I won't cause unnecessary trouble if I can avoid it. These people won't report, right? Huang Feiyun stared at him coldly. He had already given up on the idea of reporting to Chu Li. These 6 martial arts masters could only be used as ambushes. They could only deal a fatal blow when Chu Li let his guard down. Once Chu Li was on his guard, there would be no chance to turn the tables. It would be better for them to wait for their martial arts to recover before gathering together to attack Chu Li. You're a tactful person. Let's go, Chu Li said. Huang Feiyun took a deep breath. All right, I'll admit defeat. You can't kill me anyway. It was an ironclad rule that no one was allowed to kill in adjacent town, just like how one was not allowed to stay for long. It was an ironclad rule set by the emperor. Anyone who violated this rule would either be sent to the town defense prefecture or the people from the inner and outer mausoleums. Chu Li said, If I learn your secret skill and recover my martial arts as soon as possible, I won't be afraid of you. Huang Feiyun scoffed and frowned. Chu Li was already so powerful without any martial arts. If he could injure Huang Feiyun, how shocking would it be to recover his martial arts? Head Chief Chu Li was famous in Fairy's capital, and it was not a fluke. There were many more masters in Fairy's capital than here, Chu Li said, but I advise you not to play any tricks, or everyone will be in trouble. Let's go. Huang Feiyun scoffed. Shao Qi grabbed Huang Feiyun with one hand and placed her other hand on Chu Li's shoulder. Then, they glided out of the window as if they were riding on the wind. She could read Huang Feiyun's mind and knew where he lived. They landed in a small and narrow residence. This residence was even more dilapidated than Su Huanda's residence. It was hard to imagine that it belonged to the prestigious underground master, Huang Feiyun. Huang Feiyun usually did not stay here. After entering the residence, Huang Feiyun went into the study and pried open a wooden board. He took out a small box and handed it to Chu Li. This contains the secret skill that I obtained by accident. It can help me recover my martial arts quickly. Chu Li looked at him with a faint smile. Shao Qi said, "This isn't the real one. Take the real one out." "You're good." Huang Feiyun glanced at them and pointed at the bookshelf. "Move this away." Shao Qi gently lifted the bookshelf as if it was made of paper and easily moved it away. Huang Feiyun looked at her deeply and sighed. He slowly walked to the wall and knocked on it. Finally, he pulled out a hollow brick and handed a small box to Shao Qi. "Is it real this time?" Shao Qi scoffed. Huang Feiyun smiled bitterly. "If you don't believe me, I have nothing else to say." At this moment, a black shadow appeared like a ghost. It snatched the wooden box and left. It came and went in an instant and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Huang Feiyun laughed. Chu Li and Shao Qi looked at him and did not chase after him. Huang Feiyun looked at them in surprise. "Why aren't you chasing after him?" "There's no need for that. It's not my secret skill." Chu Li shook his head. "Besides, the secret skill is in your head." Huang Feiyun scoffed. "Aren't you afraid that I'll write it wrong on purpose?" P.S. The following is less than 500 words and does not take up the word count. The first White Robe Fight the Landlord Tournament. In order to thank the readers for their support, the White Robe Fight the Landlord Tournament is hereby held. First place, 3,000 RMB. Second place, 2,000 RMB. Third place, 1,000 RMB. Fourth place, 800 RMB. Fifth place, 600 RMB. Sixth place, 400 RMB. Seventh to 10th place, 200 RMB. Those who are not in the top 10, don't be discouraged. 10 lucky prizes will be randomly selected. Those who don't get lucky prizes, don't be discouraged. There's a $1,000 bag waiting for you. Participation requirements. Order all the white robes, add group verification, and sign up. Those who know how to play Fight the Landlord will form a group of 3. The first round will be an overall selection. The management will randomly assign 3 people to a group. The winner must take a screenshot and send it to the management. It must be a large picture. Everyone will only have one chance. If you win, you will be eliminated. The first place will be decided. Time. Mid-Autumn Festival will start at 8 p.m. You can sign up when the announcement is made. Until 12:30 p.m. on the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival. The prize for this event will be sponsored by the Alliance Leader with a dream in her heart. Thank you, Alliance Leader. P.S. Do you think this is the end of the event? No. 1,000,000 Chidian coins will be released. The group will announce the details. Chapter 1002. Shao Qi said, "You still have a third secret manual." Huang Feiyun's face darkened. Chu Li said, "Huang Feiyun, you should know that you can't do it again and again. Otherwise, don't blame us for being merciless." "All right." Huang Feiyun took a deep breath and picked up the poetry book on the top of the table. He passed it to Shao Qi. "This is the real one." Shao Qi quickly flipped through it and passed it to Chu Li. Chu Li nodded and smiled. "Thank you, Chili Huang. We'll meet again." "I hope we never meet again." Huang Feiyun scoffed. Chu Li said, "That depends on whether you'll come and provoke us again. If the experts in the dark and the experts in the open join forces, they can fight against us. You can give it a try. Goodbye, I won't see you out." Huang Feiyun said coldly. He felt a chill in his heart. It seemed like he could not hide his thoughts from the two of them. How terrifying. Chu Li said, "I'll take my leave then." Shao Qi put her hand on his shoulder and disappeared from the study. Huang Feiyun let out a long sigh of relief. He had finally sent off the 2 pests. He then frowned and thought about who stole the second secret manual. How dare they snatch food from the tiger's mouth? Chu Li and Shao Qi fluttered back to the inn. "Aren't you going after that guy?" Shao Qi whispered. Chu Li shook his head. "It's better to let him suffer a little." He had already noticed the middle-aged man lying outside Huang Feiyun's courtyard with his aura concealed. He was also an ambitious man who wanted to learn from Huang Feiyun's rise. Chu Li was happy to have someone to restrain Huang Feiyun, so he pretended not to know. "I'm afraid he'll get greedy," Shao Qi said. "It's not too late to teach him a lesson then," Chu Li said. Shao Qi nodded. "Can you cultivate this secret skill?" "No problem." Chu Li nodded. How long will it take to recover? Xiaoqi asked. She did not know that Chu Li had the life and death scripture and could recover his martial arts at any time. She was not so worried because he had a divine power. However, it was different now. The environment was dangerous, and it would be troublesome if his divine power was exposed. Chu Li pondered for a moment and said, "A month should be enough." In fact, he was not very interested in this secret manual. This secret skill was derived from the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, but it was far less profound than the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture. His understanding of it was very shallow, and it could only speed up the recovery of his martial arts. Practicing this required time, but once the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture was reversed, one could immediately recover their martial arts. The difference between the two was huge. However, since he was using the life and death scripture, he did not need to recover his martial arts. He could instantly replenish his inner energy and recover his cultivation. Your single slice of a universe is extremely powerful, Xiaoqi said. Chu Li nodded. It's a good way to win by surprise. The two of them sat at the stone table in the courtyard and chatted. I don't think Huang Feiyun will be convinced, Xiaoqi said. He's trained in the military, so victory and defeat are common for soldiers. He's indomitable. Chu Li asked, how about we subdue him? Xiaoqi frowned at him. Chu Li replied, I'm not exactly a good person, but I can still be of use to you. You don't have to be stingy when it comes to dispatching me. Xiaoqi gently shook her head. I'm too lazy to worry about this. All right, then we'll beat him until he retreats. Chu Li did not force her. There was a knock on the door. Xiaoqi waved her sleeves, and the courtyard door opened. Two elders stood outside and fist saluted. Are you Chu Li and Third Lady Xiao? Yes. Chu Li stood up and looked at them. Are you from the town defense prefecture? The two elders nodded. We're here to inform you that Third Lady Xiao can only stay here for 7 days. You'll have to leave after that. This is a rule set by the emperor back then. Those who aren't family members are not allowed to accompany you. No problem, Chu Li said. Xiaoqi frowned. How about staying for a month? This is a rule set by the emperor. One of the elders shook his head and sighed. Third Lady Xiao, many people want to stay for a while, but we dare not violate the rule set by the emperor. Otherwise, someone from the inner mausoleum will come. Chu Li said, All right, we won't violate the rule. That's good. We won't disturb you anymore. The two elders' fist saluted and left. They looked kind and polite. After sending the two off, Xiaoqi frowned. My lady, feel free to leave. Chu Li smiled. I could take care of myself. Xiaoqi glared at him. You already knew about this rule, didn't you? Chu Li laughed. I really didn't. I'll stay. Xiaoqi scoffed. Chu Li had no cultivation now. If he did not want to be humiliated, he could only use his divine power. However, once he used his divine power, he would never be able to return to Fairy's capital. He would be trapped here by the emperor forever. Chu Li shook his head. The emperor's rule cannot be violated. Then we'll use the name of a relative. Xiaoqi said. Chu Li was stunned. Xiaoqi said, just say that I'm your wife. Chu Li's eyes widened. Xiaoqi scoffed. Isn't this what you want? Chu Li laughed. This isn't a joke. I'm not joking. Xiaoqi said. There's nothing wrong with marrying you. Are we pretending to be husband and wife? Chu Li asked. Xiaoqi shook her head. A real husband and wife. Chu Li looked at her from head to toe. Xiaoqi scoffed. I'm cultivating the regal sword scripture, not turning myself into a rock. She was not like other women who placed too much importance on relationships. Her original plan was to be single for the rest of her life. She wanted to pursue the ultimate boundary of martial arts and cultivate the regal sword scripture to perfection. She wanted to give up on relationships completely. However, Chu Li had unknowingly walked in her heart. She resisted it because she was cultivating the regal sword scripture. She used the intellectual sword to cut the threads of love, but later on, she realized that it could not be cut off. Every time it seemed like it was cut off, the threads became thinner and harder to notice, but stronger. Now, no matter how hard she tried, she could not cut it off. There was always something in her heart. This time, Chu Li's martial arts was crippled. If he was left alone, she did not know what kind of torture he would suffer. Even if he had divine power, it was inevitable. When she thought about it, she could not stand it. Since she was not going to marry anyone, she might as well marry Chu Li. Once she made this decision, she suddenly felt a strong sense of relief. She no longer had to struggle with the shackles of love. She might as well just surrender. There were signs of a breakthrough in the regal sword scripture. Chu Li shook his head. You don't have to do this. You don't want to marry me? Shao Qi frowned and stared at him. Or do you have someone else in your heart? Chu Li laughed. How is that possible? Lu Yurong, right? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li felt that Shao Qi was exceptionally cute at this moment. She finally had some aura and was no longer as unattainable as a fairy. She is indeed beautiful and smart. She has a tacit understanding with you. Shao Qi nodded. Chu Li said, she and I are destined to be rivals. Our minds are similar, and our temperaments are similar. It's because we are similar that we repel each other. Shao Qi glanced at him with a faint smile. Chu Li smiled. If that's the case, I'll gladly accept a beauty like you. I have a condition, Shao Qi said. Say it, Chu Li said. Shao Qi said, we can't sleep together. The regal sword scripture can't be a virgin. She was slightly shy and tried her best to maintain her cold gaze. However, she was a little evasive. Chu Li was moved by her gaze and wanted to hug her. All right. Chu Li nodded, pretending not to care. Shao Qi picked up her teacup and took a sip while avoiding Chu Li's burning gaze. Chu Li also picked up his teacup and took a sip while staring at her with a passionate gaze. Chapter 1003. She could not stand Chu Li's gaze, so she put down her teacup and stood up. You should cultivate the secret skill first. Then, she awkwardly hid in the house to avoid Chu Li's gaze. Chu Li touched his chin and shook his head with a smile. No matter what, their relationship had taken a big step forward, which was beyond his expectations. Initially, he asked Shao Qi to come over because he wanted to slowly strengthen their relationship and break her mental state. He did not expect her to become his wife in one go. Although it was unexpected, he was glad that Shao Qi's feelings for him were deeper than he thought. Otherwise, based on her personality, she would not have agreed to it, even if she sympathized with him. How could he reject her pretentiously? This was a rare opportunity, so he had to seize it. He entered the house to cultivate the secret skill for a while. With the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, he quickly mastered it. However, even if he mastered this skill, his martial arts could not be recovered overnight, so the speed was much faster than normal cultivation. He estimated that he would only need a month to recover his martial arts. To others, it was indeed a rare and precious secret skill. The next day, he stayed in the inn and began to study the White Tiger Power. To him, the most precious thing about the White Tiger Power was not the visualization diagram. The spirit tiger in the visualization diagram was far from the real spirit tiger. Generations after generations had not seen the spirit tiger, so the visualization diagram had slowly changed. He had seen the real spirit tiger. If he wanted to see it, he only needed to ask the spirit crane for help. On the other hand, the White Tiger Power's incantation was too profound for him to understand with his martial arts knowledge. It seemed right, but was actually wrong. He studied it for a day, but did not make any progress, so he finally decided to go to the Spirit Crane's peak. He left the house and went to the courtyard, where he found Shao Qi cultivating. Her breathing was so weak that it almost disappeared, as if she had fallen into a deep meditative state. Her cultivation level had improved, and it seemed like her mental state had advanced again. He could not help but feel emotional. It seemed like he was Shao Qi's inner demon. Once she let go of her inner demon and no longer resisted, her mental state became more harmonious. He suddenly had an epiphany. Could it be this kind of oblivion? Was it forgetfulness to stop clinging to feelings and let nature take its course? He fell into deep thought and canceled his plan to go to the Spirit Crane's peak. Shao Qi was in a good state. It would be a pity if she was disturbed, so he could only protect her. Time passed little by little, from morning to noon, from noon to night. In the evening, Chu Li could no longer hold back his hunger. He went outside and ordered a table full of dishes. He ate and drank in the courtyard alone, feeling carefree and at ease. Xiaoqi's cultivation level was slowly increasing. The regal sword scripture was indeed marvelous. Xiaoqi opened her bright eyes when the sun was about to set. There was a flash of lightning in her eyes, but quickly disappeared and she regained her gentle and clear look. She walked into the courtyard and sat by the stone table. She took the chopsticks from Chu Li and picked up some vegetables to eat. Congratulations. Chu Li smiled. You've improved a lot this time. It's all thanks to you, Xiaoqi said. Chu Li nodded. Indeed, it's all thanks to me. After dinner, let's go back to the residence to take a look. Yes, Xiaoqi nodded. After eating, the two of them left the inn and strolled along the river. The night breeze blew gently. The moonlight and lanterns shone on the surface of the river. The willow branches by the river swayed gently. Adjacent town was located to the south of the Great Ji Dynasty. The weather was warm, and even in late autumn, the night breeze was gentle and moving. Chu Li glanced at Xiaoqi's face from time to time. Even with a white veil, it could not hide the beauty of her eyes and brows. Her jade-white skin looked especially delicate under the light, exuding a fatal temptation. Xiaoqi was already able to withstand his burning gaze, and she steadily walked forward. The two of them did not speak. A charming atmosphere floated between them. At this time, silence was better than words. No matter how long the journey was, it would eventually come to an end. Before they knew it, they had arrived in front of two residences. The main door was opened. It had been replaced with a new red door and stone lions. As they walked further in, the parterre had been refurbished. All the precious flowers and plants had been transplanted. As they walked further in, the furniture had changed too. It was not brand new, but some old furniture. These pieces of furniture exuded a sense of simplicity and vicissitudes of life. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. Huang Feiyun really knows how to do things. The bookshelves were once again filled with books. This was what pleased Chu Li the most. He had read some of these books before, but most of them were new. He was more interested in miscellaneous books now, because they were often more beneficial for understanding martial arts. You can stay here tonight, Chu Li said. Xiaoqi nodded. Let's stay here. She then pointed to the west wing. I'll stay there. She originally planned to stay next door, but now that she thought about it, it was not appropriate. If someone really wanted to hurt Chu Li, she might not be able to make it in time. Before his martial arts recovered, it was better to stay in the same residence. I'll go over there, Chu Li said. Xiaoqi nodded. It's getting late. You should rest early. Before he went to Spirit Crane's Peak, he was a little hesitant about whether he should go there immediately. He was afraid that once he arrived at Spirit Crane's Peak, the two cranes would bring him a few fruits and eat them to recover his martial arts. There were such fruits in 100,000 Hills. He had seen it in the 1,000 Herb scripture. This way, Xiaoqi would not have to stay and accompany him, nor would she have to marry him. If he wanted to be safe, he could wait for 7 days. When the dust had completely settled, he would go to Spirit Crane's Peak. A few more days would not matter. However, after thinking about it, he still decided to go to Spirit Crane's Peak. At noon, the two of them appeared at Spirit Crane's Peak. Then two white shadows flashed and pounced on Chu Li, pouncing on him. The two cranes were agile and immediately stopped their long beaks and claws. They opened their black and white gem-like eyes and looked at Chu Li curiously, noticing that something was wrong with him. They were blessed by nature and grew extremely fast. They had long reached the level of an adult's intelligence. After a few more months, they might even be smarter than an adult. Chu Li lay on the grass and patted the two's beaks. They looked at him curiously and finally let out a clear cry. Their long beaks lifted Chu Li up, and he landed on the back of one of the spirit cranes. Chu Li quickly reached out and hugged its neck to prevent himself from falling. Its feathers were hard and slippery. If he was not careful, he would slip off. With a clear cry, the two cranes soared into the sky and disappeared into the horizon with Chu Li on their backs. Xiaoqi placed her hand in front of her eyebrows and watched them blend into the clouds in the sky. She shook her head helplessly. She did not know where they were taking Chu Li to, but she knew that they would not harm him. She was relieved and sat cross-legged on the boulder to cultivate. The surging spiritual energy made her feel refreshed, and her spirit was exceptionally calm. It was as if she had returned to her mother's embrace. Chu Li's body was high up in the sky. The strong wind brushed against his face like knives and swords. His clothes fluttered in the wind. The cold air kept eroding his body, desperately trying to enter his pores. If it were not for his strong body, he would not have been able to withstand the cold. The two cranes were too fast. Chu Li could not open his eyes. They were a few times faster than the last time he rode on them. However, with the omniscient mirror, he could still see the surrounding scenery clearly. There were white clouds and the sky was blue. It was so clean that he wanted to lick it. After about an hour, the two cranes suddenly swooped down at an even faster speed. Chu Li quickly hugged them tightly and looked at the scenery below. The two cranes rushed towards a pool of blue water. It was like a green mirror reflecting the sky. When they were near the water, they suddenly slowed down. With a shake, Chu Li fell into the pool. Bang! Chu Li fell into the pool. Chapter 1004. P.S. Update complete. Chu Li felt that if he did not channel, he would be torn apart by the spiritual energy. He had no choice but to use the cloud-slashing power. The extremely pure spiritual energy in the surroundings continued to surge into his body. The cloud-slashing power went round and round, and in the end, it was so pure that his meridians started to ache. However, the spiritual energy in the surroundings continued to surge into his body and started to rush to repair his meridians. The spiritual energy turned into waves of ice-cold energy that circulated in his meridians. Chu Li continued to purify the inner energy of the cloud-slashing power. Round after round, the inner energy of the cloud-slashing power turned into clear water, no different from the water outside his body. His body seemed to become heavier. The inner energy flowed smoothly and steadily like flowing mercury. Chu Li leaped up and stepped on the water. His qigong had improved by another level. The meridians in his body were strengthened, and his internal organs were strengthened. This pool of water was indeed marvelous, and the benefits he obtained were even greater than the last time. The two cranes cried out. Chu Li leaped onto the back of one of the spirit cranes and hugged its neck. The spirit crane soared into the sky, and in the blink of an eye, it had disappeared into the sky. It left the jade green pond behind, leaving the jade green pond water behind. Chu Li suddenly pressed on the head of the spirit cranes and transmitted the scene in his mind to the spirit cranes. The spirit cranes cried out, and the spirit cranes beside them did the same. Finally, they changed direction and flew to the sky above a giant peak. The two cranes circled above the giant peak. Chu Li could see a spirit tiger lying on a huge rock at the peak of the giant peak. This spirit tiger was a few times bigger than a normal tiger. It was lying down lazily and basking in the sun like a huge cat. It seemed like it could not lift its spirits. He had ridden a spirit crane to see the spirit tiger before, but it was not this huge. It seemed like the one he saw last time was a small spirit tiger. Sensing the movement in the sky, the spirit tiger looked up at the two spirit cranes but did not move. It was as if it knew that the spirit cranes would not disturb it. Not far away, a small spirit tiger was playing with a rock. It rolled and leaped, practicing its predatory movements. Chu Li was impressed and suddenly let out a long howl. Roar! The spirit tiger that was lying on the rock and basking in the sun suddenly stood up and let out a roar. The roar shook the sky and startled the birds into flying, forming a dense patch in the sky. Chu Li smiled when he saw its arrogance. This was exactly what he wanted. Suddenly, he disappeared from the back of the spirit crane and appeared at the peak of the spirit tiger peak. Standing on a huge rock, he sized up the spirit tiger from 100 meters away. Even from 100 meters away, the torrential aura of the spirit tiger was so thick that it was suffocating Su Zimo. However, Mahavarokuna's immobility sutra came into play and dispelled the frightening aura before long. Standing up, the spirit tiger that was as large as an elephant leaped into the air. As if it had wings under its ribs, it leaped over 100 meters and pounced on Chu Li. The snow-white fur on its body rippled like the waves of the sea, glaring under the sunlight. Before the tiger even arrived, a violent force was already rushing towards Chu Li, almost suffocating him. Chu Li yelled and threw a punch. The purest cloud-slashing power was used to control the divine light fist, and its power was the strongest. The spirit tiger waved its fan-like front paw and tore apart the fist force of the divine light fist as easily as tearing paper. Chu Li used the omniscient mirror to observe down to the smallest detail. He could clearly see the appearance of his fist force and the strange force contained in its claws. When his fist force came into contact with the tiger's force, it was like tofu in front of a knife. He took a step forward and took advantage of the moment when the spirit tiger landed on the rock, and its momentum was at its weakest to fly up and collide with it. Bang! With a muffled sound, he was bounced back. The spirit tiger's body was made of flesh and blood, but it was as hard as a rock. The force of his collision did not penetrate the spirit tiger's body at all, and was reflected back into his body. He rolled down the rock and just happened to dodge the spirit tiger's huge paw. Stone powder flew everywhere. The paw had turned the rock into powder. Only after this collision did he realize how large the spirit tiger was. He was only as tall as the spirit tiger's front leg and had to jump to reach its stomach. The spirit tiger's paw was as big as a fan, so it could defeat him as easily as stepping on an ant. Roar! The spirit tiger roared, causing Chu Li's mind to tremble. It was like thunder exploding in his ears. He quickly disappeared on the spot. The spirit tiger's paw landed on the spot where he was standing. A huge pit appeared on the rock, and stone powder flew everywhere. Roar! The spirit tiger roared again and leaped towards Chu Li. Chu Li punched at the spirit tiger's stomach. The spirit tiger shook its fur nonchalantly. Its snow-white skin surged like waves, and its fur emitted a dazzling white light, easily dispersing the fist force. The fist force was blocked, and the ferocious claws had already landed on Chu Li's head. Chu Li disappeared on the spot again in a flash. Roar! The spirit tiger was instantly enraged. It was enraged, and its murderous intent grew even stronger after being dodged by an insect-like person time and time again. Chu Li's vision darkened. The roar directly shook his mind. A clear sound rang out. Chu Li was instantly refreshed, and his vision returned to normal. He could already feel the tiger's claws approaching his face. At the last moment, he barely dodged and disappeared, then reappeared on the back of the spirit cranes. The two spirit cranes soared into the sky, ignoring the roar of the spirit tiger on the giant peak behind them. They had now grown up and were no longer afraid of the spirit tiger's roar. Chu Li touched his face and felt a burning pain. He opened his hand and saw that it was covered in blood. Although the tiger's claws did not hit him, they had already hurt him. The might of the spirit tiger was truly terrifying. He had experienced it once before, but it was not as deep as this time. The scene of the white tiger visualization taught by the white tiger sect was worlds apart from the real spirit tiger. It was like the difference between a ferocious tiger and a sick cat. After all these years, spirit beasts had become legendary creatures. More and more people had not seen them and could not imagine the might of spirit beasts. The spirit cranes landed, and Chu Li glided to Xiao-Qi's side. Xiao-Qi slowly opened her eyes and looked at him. "Have you recovered your martial arts?" Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Yes, I've recovered my martial arts." Xiao-Qi smiled. "As expected of 100,000 hills," Chu Li said, "when I return, I'll have to suppress my martial arts and pretend that I haven't recovered. Otherwise, it'll be too suspicious." Xiao-Qi nodded. Chu Li hesitated. "Actually, you can leave. I can protect myself now." Xiao-Qi glanced at him. "You want me to leave?" Chu Li smiled. "Of course not." "That's it," Xiao-Qi said. "I won't go back on my words." Chu Li looked at her. "Then don't regret it." Xiao Qi glared at him. Chu Li smiled. Although he could tell from Xiao Qi's character that she would not leave, he was still worried. After all, it was too urgent. Now that he heard what Xiao Qi said, he was completely relieved. What's with your face? Xiao Qi stared at Chu Li's face. Chu Li shook his head. I fought with a spirit tiger. I'll go back today and come back tomorrow. All right. Xiao Qi nodded. After they returned to the residence, they went to their respective rooms to rest. The next day, Chu Li went to Spirit Tiger Peak again to fight with the spirit tiger. However, he could only rely on his body technique and could not shake the spirit tiger at all. The powerful divine light fist felt like it was tickling the spirit tiger. Without imminent skyline and God's limbs, it would have been smashed into meat paste. Moreover, the spirit tiger's roar was powerful. Although it did not have any divine power, it was extremely fast. Moreover, its intelligence was not inferior to that of an adult. It was arrogant and could not tolerate Chu Li repeatedly escaping from its claws. Therefore, when Chu Li appeared, it began to chase after him. Chapter 1005. A bright moon hung in the horizon like a rotating wheel of ice, and its cold and clear radiance illuminated the world. The public house was brightly lit. Even at night, the lights in the house were not extinguished. It was as bright as day. Many people were busy in the house. Some were cultivating, some were reading, some were planting spirit herbs, and some were boating on the lake. On Chu Li's island, Chu Li and Xiao Qi suddenly appeared in his courtyard. There was a glorious tree planted in the courtyard. It was rich in spiritual energy, and all kinds of spirit herbs were growing at night. Xiao Qi's waist broke free from his hand and whispered, I'll go back first. You can come back tomorrow. Chu Li nodded. Xiao Qi left with a refreshing fragrance. Shui Ling fluttered over. Master, her shiny black hair fluttered in the wind. She wore a white robe, and her face was as clear as jade. As her mastery of the crescent cryptic deepened, her temperament gradually changed and became colder. Chu Li took out a piece of paper and passed it to her. Prepare some spirit herbs. I'm going to start refining pills. Yes. Shui took the paper. Master, do you want to take a rest first? That's fine. Chu Li nodded. Is there anything going on recently? Shui shook her head as she brewed tea. There's nothing going on outside. It's just that Master, Xiao, Tai-Ying, and Madame quarreled again. Madame ran back to her parents' house. Chu Li laughed. Master Xiao Tai-Ying really can't control Madame. Shui pursed her lips and laughed. Master Xiao Tai-Ying's tricks are useless in front of Madame. She's not afraid of him at all. He loses every time. I think he'll go back to fetch Madame in 2 days. Chu Li said helplessly, Forget it. They can go and fight. You must bring enough protectors. Once I fall, they probably can't sit still anymore and are ready to make trouble. Shui nodded lightly. Master Xiao Tai-Ying's matter has spread here. What's everyone's reaction? Everyone said that we should just ignore the emperor and go back to the public house. Shui said, the emperor can't come to the public house to ask for people anyway. Chu Li said, there's no rush. How long will Master Xiao Tai-Ying be staying? Shui said, how about I go over and serve Master Xiao Tai-Ying? Chu Li shook his head. Maids aren't allowed. Other than family members, no one else. Will Lady Xiao Tai-Ying come back too? She stays. Shui Ling was confused. Chu Li smiled. From now on, she will be Madame Chu. Shui Ling's eyes widened in disbelief. It can't be? Chu Li replied snappily. Is it that surprising? Young master, are you really going to marry third miss? Yes. Will the eldest young master agree? I've come back this time to ask around. I don't think it'll be a big problem, Chu Li said with a smile. Shui Ling shook her head and said, I don't think Master Xiao Tai-Ying will agree to it. Third lady, Chu Li did not have a strong concept of being a disciple. After all, in his past life, he was only in the lower middle class. He had never been involved in the upper echelons of society. Shui grew up here, so she had a deep-rooted concept of hierarchy. Although Chu Li was rank 1, he did not come from a noble family and was congenitally weak. Chu Li said, "Let's watch Master Xiao Taiying for now." Shui pursed her lips and smiled. "If you can really marry the third lady, you'll be famous all over the world. Am I not famous enough now?" Chu Li scoffed. Shui Ling giggled and shook her head. She ran off to prepare the spirit herbs. He grew from a servant to a chief and finally married the lady. This was indeed a mysterious story. Perhaps everyone would know that compared to Chu Li of the north and Du Feng of the south, this story would attract more people. After all, many people who were not from the martial arts world did not care about martial arts masters. The next afternoon, Chu Li finally finished refining a batch of tiger bone pills. He then went to the Jade Guardian Island. The bright sun shone on his head. A gentle breeze swept across the surface of the lake. It brought with it a refreshing and slightly chilly feeling. It swept past the lush willow branches and arrived at a gazebo. It brushed past Xiao Ting, Xiao Baihe, and Chu Li's faces. In the gazebo, Xiao Taiying and Xiao Baihe sat on one side, while Chu Li sat opposite them. Xiao Taiying was still handsome and calm. He stared coldly at Chu Li. Xiao Baihe was handsome and extraordinary. He smiled at Chu Li. After a while, Xiao Taiying looked at Chu Li and sighed. "You really want to marry my sister?" Chu Li nodded. "Master Xiao Taiying, did I make things difficult for you?" "Not at all." Xiao Taiying shook his head. "Actually, no matter who my sister wants to marry, I won't object. As for my sister's marriage, in short, as long as my sister is willing to marry, I won't object." Chu Li said, "Master Xiao Taiying, don't worry. I'll cherish Lady Xiao. I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried that you'll be under too much pressure. It'll damage your reputation as head chief Chu." Xiao Taiying sighed. After all, he was an orphan. He grew up in a temple. He had a lonely life. His family background was so weak that it could not be any weaker. If he married his sister, there would definitely be people who would be jealous of him. Of course, there would be people who would be envious. However, these envious people were mostly people of the lower class. They were far from the scholarly officials. Chu Li smiled. "What's so important about my reputation? I'll just ignore them. The power of gossip is not bad." Xiao Taiying shook his head. "Don't ignore it. I'm afraid the emperor won't transfer you back to the fairy's capital. Once Chu Li became the son-in-law of the House of High Duke, his status would be completely different from that of a chief. He would need to be cautious when using him. He might not be able to return to the secret guardian's hall." Chu Li said, "It's fine. I can meditate and cultivate." Xiao Taiying smiled. "You have God's limbs. You can come back at any time. You're not afraid. However, it's uncomfortable to be sneaking around. I'll send a memorial saying that you should return to the House of High Duke if you want to hold a wedding. At least you can stay in the House of High Duke, and you won't have to suffer." Chu Li shook his head. "Eldest Master, I want to stay there and take a look." Staying in the House of High Duke was indeed a great luxury. His status was respected, and no one dared to defy him. However, it was too easy to lose his fighting spirit. Becoming an enlightened master was still far away. The Imperial Mausoleum had the secret of enlightened master. He had never given up. He wanted to find a chance to touch this mystery. The first step was to get in touch with the people in the inner mausoleum. "All right, it's up to you." Xiao Taiying said no more. "You've thought it through more thoroughly than us. Since you've made up your mind, I won't try to persuade you. Are you not going to hold the wedding?" "Not for now," Chu Li said. Xiao Taiying sighed. "It'll be hard on my sister. I'll spread the news." Chu Li gave a fist salute. Xiao Baihe laughed. "Big brother, I've always been worried that no one would dare to marry third sister. Third sister is cold. She doesn't care about men at all. She's too smart. Which man would be able to tame her? In front of her, everyone would feel ashamed and pressured to the point that they can't even breathe." Xiao Taiying scoffed. "You've got guts to say that." Xiao Baihe quickly looked around. When he realized that Xiao Qi was not around, he let out a sigh of relief. Chu Li chuckled with a proud expression. What Xiao Baihe said was true. There were not many men who could remain calm in front of Xiao Qi, not to mention having other thoughts. Zhuo Feiyang slowly walked up to the third floor of the restaurant. His sapphire blue robe made his face look even more radiant and gentle. He looked as handsome as jade. When he reached the third floor, His cold eyes scanned the surroundings. He saw a middle-aged man sitting by the window. He frowned and went forward to sit opposite him. The middle-aged man tossed a jade bottle to him. There's a tiger bone pill inside. After consuming it, your physique will improve greatly. You haven't been cultivating hard enough. I've been cultivating hard. Do you think I'm like you, head chief? Zhuo Feiyang said impatiently. The middle-aged man was Chu Li. Zhuo Feiyang knew that Chu Li's bone shrinking technique was top-notch. It was easy for him to transform into this. He did not find it strange that Chu Li sneaked into the fairy's capital. Chu Li scoffed. You've been slacking. You've been living a peaceful life. It's not that. I've been stuck at a bottleneck in my martial arts. I've been thinking of ways to break through. Zhuo Feiyang scoffed. You'll be able to break through if you consume this, Chu Li said. You've gone down the wrong path. You've underestimated your body. You need to cultivate your body and your energy at the same time. Is that so? It's up to you whether you believe it or not. Chu Li scoffed. This tiger bone pill is very precious. It seems like you don't want it. Chapter 1006. Chu Li raised the wine glass to his lips and turned away from Zhuo Feiyang to observe the scenery outside. He asked casually, How's the progress with King Jing? Zhuo Feiyang shook his head. It's not going well. My martial arts is too weak, and I'm not qualified to get close to him. I've been guarding the imperial residence. Don't rush, Chu Li calmly said. Being too greedy will only make things worse. Let's take it step by step. This isn't something that can be done in a year or two. How long? Zhuo Feiyang stared at him. Don't tell me it's a lifetime. You'll know in 10 years. Chu Li pondered. It might be even longer. You should be prepared to stay in the imperial residence for a long time. 10, 20, or even 50 years. Then would I still be a member of the High Duke's public house? Zhuo Feiyang scoffed. I think I should just join him. He has a better future. Sure. Chu Li nodded. As long as you can escape the High Duke's public house. Zhuo Feiyang glared at him helplessly. But he's been keeping a low profile recently. He doesn't even interact with the courtiers. What do you think of him? How would I know? You're ambitious. Chu Li smiled. How can I not care about this? I think he's too conservative. Zhuo Feiyang did not hold back anymore. There was no need for him to hide anything from Chu Li. This is a great opportunity. Now that King Ping has relinquished his military power, no one in the imperial court can compare to him in terms of reputation. We should take this opportunity to rope in more courtiers and increase our prestige. Chu Li smiled. I'll just be your protector. Once my martial arts become stronger, I'll be able to get close to him and gain some knowledge. I'm leaving. He stood up and left. You. Zhuo Feiyang glared at Chu Li's back angrily. He had been underestimated. The bright afternoon sun shone brightly. Chu Li floated down from the back of the spirit crane. The spirit tiger on the boulder at the peak of the mountain roared and took the opportunity when Chu Li was about to land on the ground to pounce on him. The spirit tiger's snow-white fur shone beautifully under the sunlight. Its claws were so powerful that Chu Li would be torn to pieces if he was hit. Chu Li joined his palms together in midair. A white tiger silhouette quickly formed and crashed into the spirit tiger. The spirit tiger turned its head away without a care in the world, avoiding its eyes. When the white tiger phantom collided with its neck, its snow-white fur quivered like ripples on the surface of water. Instantly, it dispelled the shocking force of the spirit focus attack, and its speed did not decrease at all. Chu Li disappeared in a flash and reappeared on the back of the spirit tiger. Woo! An angry roar sounded. Chu Li felt as if his ears had been deafened. His vision turned black, and he felt dizzy. The power of this roar was truly astonishing. If he had not activated Mahavarokana's immobility scripture with all his might, he would have passed out immediately. Blocking the roar of the spirit tiger could activate Mahavarokana's immobility scripture. Mahavarokana's immobility scripture wasn't eye-catching among the four scriptures, but it was profound and unfathomable. It could strengthen one's mental strength and counter divine arts, as well as negate the restraints of others. Originally, he could not use his divine powers in the Great Light Scripture and Mahavairocana's immobility scripture. Now, however, he could counteract and restrain them, allowing him to maintain his divine powers freely. If he could continue strengthening it, he might be able to see through Zhishan's thoughts the next time he faced him. Zhishan had always been his greatest enemy. The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture was mysterious and unfathomable. It had mysterious tricks and was impossible to guard against. Chu Li grabbed onto the smooth and flexible tiger fur to prevent himself from being flung away. The spirit tiger charged forward and then stopped abruptly. Chu Li was like a nail nailed to the tiger's back. However, the tiger fur was so smooth that it took him a lot of strength to resist the huge inertia. Seeing that this trick was not working, the spirit tiger suddenly turned over and rolled. Chu Li suddenly disappeared from the tiger's back. However, as soon as it stood up, Chu Li reappeared and rode on its back. Woo! The spirit tiger roared again, louder this time. Chu Li's vision turned black. He desperately activated Mahavairocana's immobility scripture, and the speed at which the lotus appeared increased by several times. It kept strengthening his mental strength and withstanding the spiritual attack of the roar. Chu Li endured the roar and held onto the tiger's fur tightly, allowing the spirit tiger to jump on the mountain peak. From one boulder to another, it was as agile as a cat, and its speed was extremely fast. Especially when it jumped and landed, it was abrupt and violent. Chu Li was unmoved and firmly nailed to the tiger's back. There was a formless, murderous aura on the spirit tiger's body. Chu Li could already withstand it now. Staying close to the spirit tiger's muscles and aura, he had a deeper understanding of the spirit tiger and a deeper understanding of it. He had been constantly entangled with the spirit tiger because he wanted to find the feeling that he was the spirit tiger and the spirit tiger was him. Then, he could comprehend the white tiger power. He did not have much hope for the power of the white tiger power. He wanted to cultivate it to perfection and then become an enlightened master. However, he slowly realized that he had still underestimated the white tiger power. After staying close to the tiger for a few days, he had comprehended the first level of the white tiger power and realized that it was very powerful. The key to the inner energy of the white tiger power was the murderous aura. If one could not comprehend and master that layer of murderous aura, the power of the inner energy would be mediocre, similar to that of the white tiger sect. However, after mastering this trace of murderous aura, the inner energy of the white tiger power would be solid and pure. Moreover, its lethality was shocking. It was not something that ordinary inner energy could compare to. In terms of lethality and destructive power, it was even better than the divine light technique. The source of this layer of murderous aura was one spirit. Without the spirit of the king of beasts, it would be difficult to comprehend this trace of murderous aura. Then, the inner energy of the white tiger power would fade away, and one could only rely on inner energy and the white tiger killing skill to win. Inner energy was like a knife, while the murderous aura was like the edge of the knife. Without the edge of the knife, it was a blunt knife that relied on great strength, not sharpness. With this trace of murderous aura, the knife would have sharp edge. It was not a competition of strength, but sharpness. It was a completely different realm and power. It could not be mentioned in the same breath. Because of this, he had been risking his life to entangle with the spirit tiger. The spirit tiger was extremely powerful and lived up to its name as the king of beasts. In front of it, Chu Li was like a 3-year-old child and posed no threat at all. If the spirit tiger succeeded even a little, Chu Li would definitely die a horrible death. If he made a mistake and its claws landed on his body, he would be crushed to pieces. No matter how powerful the life and death scripture was, it would be useless. It was this life or death danger that stimulated his potential to the maximum, desperately increasing his cultivation level and the sharpness of his spirit. The spirit tiger was so much stronger that he could not afford to make even the slightest mistake, or he would die. After entangling with the spirit tiger for a while, Chu Li suddenly disappeared from the tiger's back and appeared on the back of the spirit crane in the sky. The spirit crane was circling in the sky. With a clear cry, it flew away from the spirit tiger peak and returned to the spirit crane's peak. Xiao-Qi was meditating and cultivating on a rock. Her clothes were as white as snow, and she sat there like a white jade statue. When she heard Chu Li's return, Xiao-Qi slowly opened her eyes. She knew it was time to leave. When the two returned to adjacent town, it was already dusk and the lanterns were lit. The two went to a restaurant and enjoyed the scenery of the small town while they ate. After their meal, the two strolled back to the residence and returned to their respective houses to comprehend martial arts. 7 days passed in the blink of an eye. Seeing that everything was peaceful in the town, Chu Li returned to Gale City. When he arrived at Gale City, he secretly looked for Jiang Kuai and gave him a tiger bone pill to help Jiang Kuai improve his martial arts. Jiang Kuai's foundation was solid, so his cultivation level improved very quickly after he entered the Grandmaster's boundary. However, he could not compare to the 4 major sects, so he needed some external help. The tiger bone pill would strengthen his physique. When he returned to his residence in Gale City and was about to rest, he noticed Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen gliding over. They were here to bid farewell and to go to Falling Autumn City to support Imo Qianjun again. The battle there was fierce, and they were short of manpower. Chapter 1007. P.S. Update complete. The moonlight was as clear as water. The three of them sat in the gazebo as the night breeze brushed past their faces. It was late autumn, and the night was starting to feel like winter. Chu Li frowned and looked gloomy. His Zhao Daya disguise had a dark face to begin with. Now, his face was even darker, and it was scary. The air in the gazebo seemed to have frozen. Several lanterns lit up the courtyard as if it was daytime. The two women's faces looked especially beautiful under the light. Chu Li was not in the mood to appreciate it. He frowned and scoffed. What is the saint trying to do? The saint can't do anything. We don't have enough manpower, and we can't let our secluded seniors leave the mountain. Li Ruolin shook her head. Don't look so worried. We're not 3-year-olds. We can take care of ourselves. It's not the same. Chu Li said impatiently. You're going to Falling Autumn City. Falling Autumn City isn't that scary. It's not like we haven't been there before. Li Ruolin smiled. Chu Li scoffed. Ask senior sister Lu if it's scary. Lu Zhan sighed. Someone has to go and help. Otherwise, are we supposed to watch our senior brothers and sisters fall into danger? I'm most worried about Imo Qianjun, Chu Li said angrily. He looks like a straightforward person, but he's a cunning one. I'm worried that you'll help him count the money after he betrays you. He's not that cunning. Li Ruolin laughed. What kind of people do you think we are? Chu Li said, Senior sister Li, you're smart, but you don't know how sinister people can be. He's capable of anything. Nothing can escape the saint's eyes. He won't dare to do anything, Lu Zhan said. Junior brother Zhao, you don't have to worry too much. Don't worry. We'll be careful, Li Ruolin said. Sigh. Chu Li shook his head. Besides Imo Qianjun, there's also Monk Shishan. He's too scary. You'll definitely die if you encounter him. I don't know what the saint is thinking. She's making you take such a huge risk. Besides us, there are 2 senior sisters, Li Ruolin said. They're patrols too. Even if the 4 of you work together, you won't be able to keep your lives if you encounter Monk Shishan. Chu Li shook his head and said, That's why when we encounter him, we'll immediately use our secret skills to escape. Even if we're like senior brother Ji, we won't be able to fight him with our lives on the line. We won't be able to defeat him at all. I understand. Li Ruolin said snappily. Are you really? Gather? Yalu Tai? The Imperial Guard's magnetic filter collapsed? Groove brush cut, sleeve engraving stem? Is it true that Binjua Sun's wages tanning Wu? Azimuth, it's best to live in seclusion in the Great Light Peak. Chu Li quickly nodded and said, Senior sister Li, think about it. Once you're done with this mission, return to the peak and live in seclusion. Don't come out and take risks anymore. If the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty go to war, I don't know how many people will die. How can I hide when the country is in danger? Li Ruolin replied snappily. All right, we're just informing you and checking up on you. Since you're fine, we can leave with peace of mind. Chu Li sighed and took out a jade bottle from his inner pocket. He handed it to Li Ruolin. There are a few light pills in here. Keep them in your mouth when you're fighting the enemy. Don't be reluctant. I have more after you finish them. Li Ruolin accepted the bottle and smiled. The light pill is an extremely rare item. Everyone only has one, but you're lucky. Don't worry, we have secret skills with us. We won't die so easily. Chu Li glared at her. Don't say such inauspicious things. His heart suddenly skipped a beat when Li Ruolin said that he had a vague feeling that something bad was about to happen. How about this? I'll go with you, Chu Li said. Li Ruolin shook her head. You've been sent here, and you're not allowed to participate in this war. I'll just sneak over, Chu Li said. Li Ruolin said, if the saint finds out, you'll be in trouble. Don't worry for nothing. Before you enter the Great Light Peak, I was already a patrol. I've been through so many battles. Chu Li frowned as he looked at them. Suddenly, he appeared behind them in a flash and patted their backs. The two women were stunned for a moment and froze. Li Ruolin cried out involuntarily, Zhao Dai, you're crazy. I don't think this trip is appropriate. It's better if we don't go. Chu Li shook his head. I'm sorry, senior sisters. Do you know what you're doing? Li Ruolin said angrily. Don't mess around. We've delayed the rescue of falling Autumn City and put the other senior sisters and senior brothers in danger. Even if we die 100 times, we won't be able to atone for it. Chu Li scoffed. Before I care about their lives, I'll care about yours first. To him, apart from Li Ruolin and Lu Zhen, the spirit medicine nursery, and Sun Li Hua, he did not care about the rest of the people from the Holy Church of Light. It did not matter to him whether they lived or died. After all, the Holy Church of Light was his opponent. Lu Zhen said, Junior Brother Zhao, I know you care about us, but you're confused. If you do this, we'll be punished according to the Church's rules. You won't be able to escape it. It's fine if you disobey orders during normal times, but if you disobey orders during wartime, you'll be beheaded immediately. Chu Li scoffed. You were forced to do this. I'm the one to blame. Whether we were forced or not, who can prove that? Lu Zhen shook her head. Moreover, we came here on our own. We've already broken the rules. Logically, we should have rushed to falling Autumn City as soon as we received the order. I'll personally apologize to the saint. Chu Li shook his head. But I can't let you go this time. Zhao Dai, Li Ruolin said angrily. Let go of us now. Chu Li shook his head without saying a word. He trusted his intuition. His sharp senses told him that it was inappropriate and inauspicious. Of course, he could not let the two women court death. Junior Brother Zhao, you're putting us in danger, Lu Zhen said. If we don't go to the rescue, we'll become a laughingstock even if the saint forgives us. We'll be too ashamed to stay at Great Light Peak because we're afraid of danger. So be it, Chu Li said. It's better than dying. Zhao Dai, we won't die so easily. Li Ruolin said impatiently. Let go of us. Chu Li shook his head. I won't let go. Just give up and stay here obediently. You can trap us for a while, but can you trap us for the rest of our lives? Lu Zhen sighed and said gently, It's dangerous this time, so we're not going. What about next time? Are we going to retire at Great Light Peak instead of going every time? To be honest, we can't live like that. Chu Li frowned at her. Lu Zhen said, Instead of living a quiet life, it's better to die a heroic death. This is the way we've chosen to live. Chu Li looked at Li Ruolin. Li Ruolin bit her lower lip and nodded slowly. Yes, we could have chosen to stay in the peak, but we still chose to leave. We've encountered many dangers and survived them. Although falling Autumn City is dangerous, we can't run away. Lu Zhen said, If we run away this time, we'll run away the next time. We'll become completely useless and live a life worse than death. Li Ruolin nodded. Senior sister is right. Chu Li sighed. I'll accompany you then. Li Ruolin frowned. There's no need for that, Junior Brother Zhao. You can accompany us for a while, but are you going to accompany us forever? Chu Li blurted out, There's nothing wrong with that. Chapter 1008. Chuli looked at her helplessly. When it came to personal beliefs, he really couldn't do anything about it. She chose this kind of life, and he couldn't force her to change because of danger. Moreover, she wasn't his woman. Lu Zhan said, "Junior brother Zhao, I know you like junior sister Li, and that's why you're acting this way, because you care too much about her. But we're patrols, and we have to face difficulties head-on. We're not as delicate as you think." Li Rulin turned around and glared at Lu Zhan. Chuli furrowed his brows and thought for a while. He then took out 2 jade tags from his inner pocket and handed them to the 2 women. "Take this. If your life is in danger, crush it." He made up his mind to take a risk and use God's limbs to save them. When the time came, he would just say that he had been following them. It was extremely risky to use God's limbs. There were only 2 or 3 people in the world who had successfully cultivated God's limbs, and they were all monks from the Titanium Temple. The remaining one was Chuli. If he were to be recognized when he used it, his identity would be exposed. Li Rulin took it without hesitation. "All right, we'll crush it if there's any danger. We'll leave first." Lu Zhan took it and sized it up before putting it away. She smiled and said, "Junior brother Zhao, we'll come back to see you after we've completed our mission." Chuli nodded. With this jade token, if there was any danger, he would be able to rush over immediately. The effect was almost the same as him secretly following them. Finally, he felt a little more at ease. Li Rulin walked up to him and patted his shoulder. She chuckled and said, "Calm down. Don't provoke the saint anymore. The saint is running out of patience with you. Behave yourself for a while." Chuli said, "I've been very honest." "Then stop killing people and causing trouble." Li Rulin said in annoyance, "The Holy Church needs to join forces with the other 3 sects to deal with the Qiu dynasty. What will the White Tiger sect think after what you've done? The impact is huge." Chuli furrowed his brows and nodded. Of course, he knew that he shouldn't cause trouble, but because of his detached mentality, he killed those who needed to be killed without any scruples. The Holy Maiden was truly a rare sight. Even though she was furious, she still sent people over to help him. She had originally intended to give him the cold shoulder for a while, but now she was probably disappointed and had completely given up. Chuli shook his head as he watched the 2 women glide away. Walking in the martial arts world was a dance with death. No matter how strong one's martial arts was, if one was unlucky, one's life would still be in danger. Life and death were up to fate, and riches and honor were up to the heavens. Could it be that everything was destined? He took a deep breath and suppressed the ominous feeling in his heart. Then he walked out of the mansion and wandered around Gale City to vent his frustrations. So what if his martial arts were strong? He couldn't control the thoughts of others. It was because he didn't have enough power. A real man couldn't be powerless for a day. Gale City was exceptionally lively at night. The bright streets were bustling with activity as the citizens had to work during the day. At night, their families would go out for a stroll and relax. The Phoenix Goddess restaurant was bustling with noise and excitement. However, Chuli had no intention of entering the brothel. Without Yu Ru and by phone, the Phoenix Goddess brothel no longer held any interest in the place. Not long after he passed by the Phoenix Goddess brothel, his expression suddenly changed. The omniscient mirror inadvertently scanned Elder Song's residence. His figure flickered a few times and floated like the wind. He appeared in Old Song's residence and saw Old Song lying on the ground. He had been dead for a long time. He didn't touch Old Song's corpse. He just stood there and looked at it. All of Old Song's internal organs had been shattered. He could tell that it was the White Tiger killing skill that killed Old Song in one hit. This was obviously the work of the White Tiger sect. Could they have discovered that Old Song had revealed the White Tiger power? Chuli became vigilant and turned to look at his surroundings. There were only a few martial arts masters within the observation range of the omniscient mirror. He suddenly focused his gaze and saw that there was no one around Old Song's residence. There was only an old beggar squatting at the end of the alley. There was also another beggar squatting at the corner of the alley behind Old Song's residence. These 2 beggars were old and clumsy. Their movements were slow and they didn't have any killing intent. They didn't know any martial arts and were extremely ordinary people. That was why Chu didn't pay much attention to them before. However, he felt that something was wrong now. Thus, he activated the omniscient mirror and looked into their minds. Chu dashed out of Old Song's residence and headed toward the back door. The two beggars moved at the same time. Their body movement techniques were as fast as lightning, and they were about to catch up to him. Their inner energy still didn't fluctuate, and they seemed like ordinary people who didn't know martial arts. However, these two ordinary people's body movement techniques were extremely fast, and they were even faster than him. He didn't dare to use his divine power and only tried his best to use time steps. He flashed a few times and avoided being surrounded by the two beggars. Then, he dashed in another direction. The two old men's body movement techniques were extremely fast, and they caught up to him in the blink of an eye. Their torn and dirty clothes fluttered in the wind, and they exuded a murderous aura. He already knew why the two were here. The White Tiger sect found that Zheng Yinwu's death was strange. He died without a sound, which was not how a 100-year-old martial arts master should die. Thus, they suspected that there was something wrong with Old Song. After interrogating him, Old Song confessed everything. They knew that Chu Li had obtained the inheritance of the White Tiger power. They didn't care much about Chu Li killing the White Tiger sect's disciples. After all, as a martial arts sect, fighting and killing were inevitable. However, obtaining the inheritance of the White Tiger sect was related to the foundation of the sect, so they couldn't tolerate it. Chu Li obtaining the White Tiger power was not a big deal. The most terrifying thing was that if the Holy Church of Light obtained the White Tiger power, the destruction of the White Tiger sect would be right in front of them. Therefore, they must kill Chu Li no matter what. These two fellows were 100-year-old martial arts masters who lived in seclusion. He suddenly turned in the air and dodged again. Two middle-aged men dressed like merchants rushed toward him from 200 meters away and attacked him together with the two beggars. The White Tiger sect didn't send 200-year-old martial arts masters, but 4. His heart tightened as he recalled the scene when he saved King Ping. The 100-year-old martial arts masters were far more powerful than his incarnation of Zhao De. If he was prepared and used the single slice of a universe, he would be able to stop 100-year-old martial arts master. Even 4 of them would not be able to stop him, and he would definitely lose. Now that he was unprepared and could not use God's limbs, the only thing he could do was to escape. The 4 of them had surrounded him, but he managed to escape from their encirclement. The 4 of them chased after him and shot toward Gale City. He wanted everyone to know about the existence of these 4 people so that they would be wary of him. 400-year-old martial arts masters from the White Tiger sect were chasing after a branch leader. The Holy Church of Light would never let this go, so the White Tiger sect had to consider the consequences. He flew to the top of the Phoenix Goddess brothel and shouted, "The White Tiger sect is despicable. Come!" The 4 of them chased after him, and Chu Li used his divine light fist. The 4 of them blocked in disdain and did not slow down at all. Chu Li waved his hands, and 2 flying blades shot out. Ding ding! The 2 beggars swung their fists to deflect the flying blades. Their torn clothes fluttered like rubber balls. Chu Li's light blade was so powerful that they could not underestimate it. However, as long as they were vigilant and wore treasured armor, they were not afraid of the light blade. Nevertheless, they were very careful in dealing with it. Roar, roar. The 4 of them shot out White Tiger silhouettes at the same time. These 4 White Tiger silhouettes were extremely fast and were harder to deal with than the 4 of them. They caught up with Chu Li in an instant. Chu Li put his palms together and formed a tiger silhouette that was as clear as a real baby tiger. Although the tiger silhouette was only the size of a fist, it exuded an eerie aura like a young tiger roaring in the forest. It was not weak at all as it pounced on one of the tiger silhouettes. Chapter 1009. His tiger silhouette flickered and became much thinner and dimmer. It was about to dissipate at any time, but it didn't. It continued to move forward to meet the 3rd tiger silhouette. After colliding with it, it finally perished together with the third tiger silhouette and dissipated together. At this moment, one of the tiger's silhouettes that the four people from the White Tiger sect had conjured crashed into his chest and lower abdomen. Bang! Bang! With two muffled sounds, he flew into the air. The force rushed into his body, and it was so solid that it was almost tangible. It wanted to tear his body apart, immediately injuring his internal organs. He spat out a mouthful of blood, which was like a mist. He circulated his inner energy and activated the inner energy of the White Tiger power, slowly dispersing the force of the White Tiger killing skill that was vibrating in all directions and trying to tear him apart. His inner energy was not as pure as the other two's, but there was a trace of killing intent in it. It was like a sharpened saber going against a sharpened saber. Although the opponent's saber was sharpened, it was firm and heavy. In terms of lethality, the sharpened saber was far inferior. However, when the two clashed, the sharpened saber might not have much of an advantage. Chu Li's internal organs were far tougher than an ordinary person's. In addition to that, he had the floating silkworm treasure clothing, so he could only suffer injuries and not die. If an ordinary grandmaster were to take 2 hits of the White Tiger killing skill, they would definitely die. Elder Song must have taken 1 hit and died immediately. He flew up, his hands forming the silhouette of a tiger in the air, and he controlled it to shoot towards one of them. The old beggar sneered, showing off in front of an expert. Chu Li's cultivation level was not weak. If he had used the Great Light Scripture and the Light Blade against them, he would still have been a threat. However, he just had to use the White Tiger power that he had just learned against them. It was simply ridiculous. Had they cultivated for almost 100 years for nothing? He wanted to surpass them after practicing for less than a month. Since they were wearing treasured armors, even if the White Tiger killing skill were to land on them, it would be reduced by more than half, so there was nothing to worry about. Therefore, without any hesitation, they charged forward and condensed another tiger silhouette at the same time to chase after Chu Li. They wanted to perish together and see who would be able to defeat the other. Chu Li had seen through their thoughts and was about to take advantage of it. His hands kept opening and closing, once again forming 3 tiger silhouettes. He was multitasking, dodging the attacks of the 4 tiger silhouettes while controlling the 4 tiger silhouettes to attack the 2 old beggars and the 2 merchants. Bam, 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 bam. Chu Li was hit once, but he was unable to completely dodge the 4 tiger silhouettes. The other 4 elders were also unable to dodge his tiger shadow. His spirit was strong, and his tiger shadow was faster than them. All 5 of them were sent flying, and at the same time, they coughed up clouds of blood mist in the air. The destructive power of Chu Li's White Tiger killing skill was astonishing, but had been reduced by half by the White Tiger armor, so it was no longer as lethal when it landed on their bodies. Moreover, their cultivation levels were high, so they managed to offset some of the damage. Chu Li was injured again. Again, Chu Li scoffed. After spitting out the blood mist, he condensed the tiger silhouette again. Woo! Without hesitation, the 4 men joined their palms together and formed tiger silhouettes at the same time as Chu Li. Then, 4 tiger silhouettes shot towards him while his tiger silhouette shot towards one of the men. Bang! He flew up, and so did the other old beggar. When he flew into the air, the other 3 tiger silhouettes were hot on his heels like maggots attached to bones, causing him to groan inwardly. If it was a one-on-one battle, he might not necessarily be afraid. In fact, he might even be able to suppress one of them. The might of the White Tiger power was astonishing, but if it was a 1-on-4 battle, he had no chance of winning. Bang, 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 bang. Muffled sounds could be heard continuously in the field as Chu Li was continuously sent flying. The Phoenix Goddess Brothel had long heard their movements, and each of them peeked out to watch. The 4 of them fought from the rooftop of the Phoenix Goddess Brothel to the rooftop next to it. Everyone in the Phoenix Goddess Brothel could see it clearly, and they were in high spirits. It was rare to see a battle between grandmasters, and it was even more precious to masters who wanted to break through to the grandmaster's boundary. Chu Li realized that the situation was not good. If this continued, he would fall into an increasingly disadvantageous situation. This was not a joke. Even if he transformed into Chu Li, he had no chance of winning. The only way out was to escape. He swayed a little and ran outside. "I'll go to the Radiance clan." An old beggar scoffed. Chu Li sneered. "Go ahead. I like to see whether the Radiance clan has more disciples or the White Tiger sect has more disciples." The old beggar paused and scoffed angrily. "Then I'll kill you." Chu Li's words made him extremely fearful. He knew that Zhao Dai was ruthless when it came to killing people, so there was no need for him to take this risk. Therefore, he dropped the idea of killing the Radiance clan's disciples and decided to kill Zhao Dai first. Chu Li shouted, "The White Tiger sect is becoming more and more powerful. 400-year-old masters against me." The old beggar and the other three men's expressions changed slightly. Their attacks became fiercer as tiger silhouettes pounced on him crazily. Chu Li used timed steps to escape quickly, but his voice echoed throughout half of Gale City. He dodged left and right and was hit by the White Tiger killing skill from time to time. Eventually, he managed to escape into the forest outside the city. Instantly, the power of the White Tiger killing skill was limited here like a fish diving into water. The trees were a huge obstacle for the White Tiger silhouettes, and they would crash into them if they were not careful. It was extremely difficult for them to catch up to Chu Li. Outside, he would be hit by the White Tiger killing skill from time to time and spit out a mouthful of blood. However, in the forest, he would not be hit for a long time, so the situation was much more relaxed. "Surround him and kill him," an old beggar said in a low voice. The other three men nodded. Hence, two of them chased after him, while the other two flanked him from both sides in an attempt to block him off. However, Chu Li was unusually slippery. He had already seen everything clearly with the omniscient mirror. As soon as they moved, he immediately changed his direction, and the encirclement was instantly broken. In the end, there were still 4 people behind him, and they could not form an encirclement. The 5 of them went round and round the wood. Chu Li's inner energy was abundant, and so were the 4 old men. They circled around endlessly from night to day, and from day to night. In the end, all distracting thoughts were gone, and there was only one thought left in their minds. Catch up to him. Chu Li had no other choice. He was not a threat to them. Although the White Tiger killing skill was strong, once it was used, he would usually be fighting against 4 people at once. The moonlight was like water, and Chu Li was still chasing after the 4 of them. Chu Li was still full of energy and did not show any signs of fatigue. The other 4 were the same. They had enough pills, so they ate something when they were hungry and drank some water when they were thirsty. The 4 of them took turns to rest, and it was enough for the 3 of them to chase after him together. They were also secretly surprised that Zhao Dai was so tenacious. Chu Li was also impressed. These 4 old men did not look old at all. To grandmasters, 100 years old was just middle age. They were in the prime of their lives, and their bodies were at their peak. Suddenly, he turned his head and roared. The stupefying howl was used in an unexpected moment. The 4 of them stopped moving. Chu Li shot out a blade from each of his hands. TSS, TSS. 2 blades were shot at the foreheads of 2 people. Just as the blades were about to hit, the 2 of them shrunk their heads and avoided the blade. With a proud smile on their faces, they suddenly chased after Chu Li and closed in. Chu Li saw that the situation was not good, so he used the stupefying howl again. This time, the 4 of them did not hesitate and closed in. 4 tiger shadows shot out, and there was no way to avoid them. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.